A topsy-turvy week in the life of Swindon Town Football Club, where the 10 men of town followed up an opening day trouncing at the hands of Harrogate with an outstanding second 45 to rescue a point and almost steal all three from early season favourite Salford. Well, sadly, Tuesday night resulted in what appears to be the all too familiar annual first leg exit from the League Cup at the hands of Walsall. Tonight, we'll have reflections on Tuesday night's Cup disappointment, plus we're buzzing to be joined by Town legend Charlie Austin for the first of his weekly updates from Town Under in his new segment, Chazetta Football Australia. Plus, there's new contracts for Ellis Iandolo, but sadly an injury setback to both Ellis and Reece Devine to be getting our teeth into. The signing of a new left-back, the hunt for a striker reinforcement continues, and finally, we'll be taking your calls on the bipolar social media landscape of hashtag STFC. Has disposition replaced debate? Are we emboldened by our anonymous online alter egos? Has happy clapping replaced realistic caution? As barbed comments or insults have been traded this week, does anyone actually care about being kind? Or do we all love or hate our football club so much we're just blinded by the emotion of it all? Diminished responsibility and all that. Well, joining me to tackle this jam-packed show is Chris Phillips. Chris, good evening.
Evening, Hannahs. How are you doing?
Well, yes, mate, it's been an eventful week as the roller coaster continues and the allegations have abounded.
Joining Chris, I've been a bit lucky in the fact I've been out of football for the last fortnight.
Well, you have. Well, listen, if you're going to work for the Press Association, mate, and go and start covering the Commonwealth Games and drinking all the free beer and staying in the free hotels, like I've got no sympathy for you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be back and ready to go.
Well, I'm glad you are. And alongside Chris Phillips, making a long overdue return to the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge, is the Legends Lounge celebrity barman himself, Mike Yavuts. Mike, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thank you. I've been slightly under the weather the past couple of days, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better. So, yeah, looking forward to chatting all things Swindon Town.
It's not the dreaded C word, is it?
Nah, it's all good. Luckily, just a bit of a stomach issues, but yeah, feeling a bit better this evening, which is good.
All right. Well, the mind boggles. I could ask you for detail, but I'm not going to bother.
Probably a wise decision.
Well, listen, on top of that jam-packed sort of jamboree of content for us to be getting our teeth into, and for you lucky listeners to be devouring, you've also got a chance to win an exclusive signed Charlie Austin print from the wonderful Dan Designs. It features Charlie Austin doing his thing at the county ground, signed by Dan himself, and it's from his new upcoming Panini-esque range of prints. So you will be the first one in the country to own that, which is outstanding. And I'm sure we could probably even arrange to boomerang that down under, get Charlie to sign it and get it back to you if you're really, really that desperate for Charlie's signature. No doubt you've already got it. But listen, without further ado, let's crack on. I mean, where do we start? Chris, I guess... obviously, we were at the county ground on Saturday. We kind of done Salford to death. So I'm kind of keen that we sink our teeth into Walsall and what it actually means. So Walsall 2, Swindon Town 0, Chris. It's once again a first round exit from the League Cup for Swindon Town. For me, it appears it was like a solid sort of 70-minute performance. And then essentially our rather flimsy bench was called into action. It seemed to coincide with Town sort of slipping into sixes and sevenses and disappearing out the cup. And depending on what side of the fence you're on, and he certainly denied it today, last night, it kind of seems to have heaped a whole host of unnecessary pressure on the gaffer Scott Lindsay, doesn't it?
Yeah, obviously I'm a bit behind the ball on you as well, because I haven't been to any of the games yet until Tuesday. But I did watch the highlights on this, but the first thing that jumped out to me, and I thought after the first couple of games, was that lineup. I thought when we're not gelling and we needed to have a stronger lineup there, and I think that was really I think he's missed the boat there.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, what did you think? I've got a rather unique take on how I discovered the what was going on with the lineup, and I've got to tell you, I was surprised. But what was your take, Mike? Because you were getting a lot of content piped direct to you from the ground, so you got to see these things as they were happening. What was your take on things?
Yeah, so I was surprised as anyone else to sort of see the lineup. I wasn't really expecting such a youthful squad. I can see both sides of the argument. I can see why people say he wanted to rest the team ahead for Saturday. If that was the case, then a lot of people say telling the fans ahead of the game would have been a good idea, and I do agree with that. But at the same time, we want the squad to gel. We want the first team players to get more experience, playing off each other and developing that chemistry. So I can see both sides of the argument, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Going into the game, I think I kind of was pretty much plugged into the same narrative that Chris was coming out with, where, listen, we've come off of a really, really successful second 45 against Salford on Saturday. We've got this squad of, there's been significant changes. We just started to sort of see what I felt after the second half of Saturday, a really, really strong side emerging. And I was thinking to myself, look, even if we do experiment or even if we do bring a few of the lads that maybe were on the bench, the likes of Johnny Williams, Ricky Aguiar, if we bring those guys back into the mix, give youngsters like Harrison Minturn a run, I'm kind of hoping that the rear guard on the bench would have been made up by the likes of your Ben Gladwins, your Jake Wakelins, and so on and so forth. Like the lads that are quite clearly at the top end of the managerial sort of selection. So, much to my surprise, about a couple of hours before kickoff, I wouldn't say he was an official spy, but I had a mate of mine staying at the hotel. It just so happened to be the hotel where the Town boys either rendezvoused or set off from. And he was relaying he's a diehard Town fan, is Luke, and he was relaying the players that he could see. And he has essentially read out last night's squad. And my initial reaction to that was, well, maybe there's a few of the lads that have been given the opportunity to go and see family overnight. There are lads that are in, that do hail from the Midlands. And I was thinking, maybe those guys are going to be kind of rendezvousing at the ground themselves. They've been given a little bit more leeway. I really, really couldn't tell. That was sort of what I was hoping for. When I saw the lineup, I kind of listen. I mean, I took the Twitter last night to take on some of the kind of I'm definitely a glass half full kind of bloke. But I kind of felt that the gaffer was damned if he did, damned if he didn't last night. Because if you put the first teamers out, and let's say, I don't know, we picked up a couple of injuries going into the game against Carlisle on Saturday. Big league game. The league is clearly going to be our focus this year. We don't get a result. People are going to turn around on the other side of the debate on Twitter and say, well, hold on a minute. Like, that's a meaningless cup to us. We're not going to win the League Cup this year. What does it matter? You've gone and lost Ben Gladwin for a month, or, you've gone and lost, Jake Wakelin, or, you've gone and lost Angus MacDonald for, a month. Like, you just can't win. And it does seem to be, Chris, I'll put it to you, for me, I don't know whether people were kind of reading too much or too little into my words last night, but there does seem to be this sentiment with Scott Lindsay where he's sort of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because it's not necessarily about the selections he made last night, but it kind of feels like from the get-go, people's patience with Scott Lindsay has been wafer thin. How do you feel?
I pretty much agree with that as well, because I got the impression Scott Lindsay had no scope for any failure. He needed a strong start, and we've had a poor start, and because people weren't prepared to give him a chance because he was the cheap option, and so it didn't have a chance.
Yeah, and the problem with Scott is, I mean, we've certainly, I often refer to the sort of 35 odd years I've been following the club, and even, myself, I'll be the first one to hold my hands up and say, I love a name. I love a tracksuit manager. I love a Lou Macari, Glenn Oddle, an Ozzy Ardiles, Steve McMahon, to an extent, a Paolo Di Canio, a Dennis Wise. We've had some huge names at our football club. And I think we're kind of used to having that sort of talismanic presence on the touchline. It's always something that's made us feel very, very proud, I think, of our football club. And more often than not, those names have brought sort of unbridled levels of success. Very little gets discussed about the kind of money that was being burnt through, though, however, back in those days. And the fact that in many ways the club's still picking up the pieces from that golden era of big names. Now, that's not Scott Lindsay's fault. That's not Clem Morfuni's fault. That's not Rob Angus's fault. It's certainly none of the fans' fault in the stadium at the moment. Those decisions were made by the football club way back when. However, we've got this new era of kind of, I would argue sort of realism that has been spoken about plenty by the new owner, but it just doesn't seem to be chiming, Chris, does it? Or in fact, I'll put that to you, Mike. It just doesn't seem to be chiming with certain sections of the supporter base, particularly those that are on the socials.
No, I think it's important to remember that there's always going to be certain levels of dissent, especially amongst football clubs and football decisions, and everyone's got their own opinions. But I don't know, some of the criticism I do find a little bit hard to understand, especially like Sid. It feels like Scott Lindsay. You said he's sort of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, and I feel it's sort of the same way with Clem as well. Like, you see people mocking him online for pulling pints and meeting people around the town, but I don't know. Personally, I prefer an owner to show that he wants to get invested in the people of the town and the culture of Swindon as a place, rather than someone like Power, who just didn't interact with the fans at all, or maybe just like the occasional interview somewhere. So yeah, it is. As I said, there is a lot of dissent online, especially on social media. So I think it's important to remember that even when it seems like there's a lot of voices that are being negative, it's still only a very small proportion of the fan base. Especially when you think about a home game, we get about 9,000 fans. So say for example you get 100 replies, it feels like a lot when they're coming into your phone, but as a proportion of the fan base is still a very, very small proportion. So I try not to put too much stock into online debates personally.
I would sort of on that note, Hannah, so like I've made no secret of the fact that when Garner left, that I wanted Ryan Mason. Ryan Mason was my first choice, but obviously that didn't happen, and we got Scott Lindsay in, and you've got to give him a chance. People are just not giving him that chance. I thought, all right, it's only 3 games in. Now, if we're still in this state of flux, 8 or 9 games in, that's different. But we're still only 3 games in, and we need to find out what that best team is. I think one thing we have got is that maybe that system with 3 at the back just doesn't work. So hopefully we go with 4 at the back. I think we'll get more out of the team with 4 at the back.
Yeah, when they announced it on Twitter, like I think it was only about maybe an hour ago or something like that, about the new left back. There was again a lot of negative response because people want us to sign a striker, and like I completely understand that as well. I agree we're definitely lacking a striker, and I think Scott Lindsay's been open about that as well. But the fact that we signed a left back, which allows us to play 4 at the back, surely that's a positive thing. It's the formation that the fan base has been crying out for. Obviously, we were at sort of 3 at the back, 5 at the back start of this season and a lot last season. And when we switched to 4 at the back, the chances we started creating were a lot better. I think at the start of the season last season as well, we didn't score too many goals. So it's been a similar start. But yeah, Saturday's a really huge day for Scott.
If we actually win on Saturday, for argument, we will be exactly the same position as we were last season, and I just think the fan optimism will be completely different from what it was at this stage last season.
Yeah, I completely agree. At the end of the day, football fans are very fickle, and the last game matters quite a lot. There's the recency bias. There's that saying, you're only as good as your last game. So winning papers over all of the cracks. It makes everything absolutely fine. So personally, I think it's too early to make some judgments about Scott Lindsay as a manager so early into the season.
Well, listen, I mean, I make you right, guys. I think it's very easy for us to turn around and say, it's only been, 1.5 competitive games, if you exclude, obviously, our exit from the League Cup last night. I think probably what's part of feeding into people's frustrations is this kind of 3 at the back system that's been deployed where, it's been disjointed. It hasn't looked great when we've had the 3 centre halves back there. On Saturday, we've had to revert the system. And you could quite clearly see that Tom Clayton, whether he was playing as a slightly wider left of a three at centre back with the right wing back sort of dropping in a little bit more, or whether they just went to a regimented four, is there to be debated. I spoke to a couple of the players after the game, and they were fairly clear to me that they'd been given instructions to slip to a back four and that Clayton was playing left back. But it's been a topic of debate, particularly today in some circles. But nonetheless, when we switched to the four at the back on Saturday, you've seen a completely different performance. So if you're just, your rank and file fan sat in the ground, as we all are, and you can remember that fantastic run we went on at the back end of last season, where, we thought that all was lost, and then we basically blitzed it through to, to nail a playoff place. And we're a spot kick away from getting to Wembley, right? So that's in people's minds. And then the same, the manager now, that was the assistant back then, has reverted his system to three at the back. I mean, I think people are entitled to kind of ask questions why, when it would appear that it's clearly not working. However, we do have to make this point that obviously we have recruited pretty much a whole new defensive lineup. Like, it is going to take time for these guys to settle in. Just because the likes of Matt Bowdery, Dion Conroy, and A.N. Other, whoever played, whether that be Jake O'Brien or anybody else at the back last year, just because that didn't work doesn't necessarily mean that we can't get this system to work. But clearly the manager, he wants to give that a go. He wants to give it a run. Essentially 1.5 games is not giving it a crack and giving it an opportunity to work. So, and I'll be interested to I'll be a little bit provocative, boys. Is there anyone that has seen enough of any of our defenders, with the exception of Matt Bowdery, to make that point? I really, really, to arbitrarily dismiss playing your three at the back. I really, really don't know. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is you can understand where people are going, hang on, this 1.5 sort of game argument just doesn't wash. Ash, I can see that you've requested to join, mate. Please do sit tight, buddy. We've got Charlie coming on shortly. We're just going to finish talking about Walsall, and I'm going to get you involved in the big Q&A in the second half of the show, mate. So thank you ever so much for jumping in. Please do keep your patience with us. All right, so listen, obviously So the game unfolded like this, essentially. Walsall 2, Swindon Town 0. Essentially, Town were keeping things nice and neat and tidy. And then it appears that, I mentioned the substitutions. So Mo Darbre came on 69 minutes, Anton Dworzek 62 minutes, Oscar Massey 76 minutes. And it seemed to coincide with Town kind of losing their way. A couple of defensive mishaps at the back from Town, involving Shade, Harry Minturn, and Lewis Ward, seemed to contribute to Town imploding, conceding 2 goals in a minute. Danny Johnson and Timmy Abraham on 80 minutes and 81 minutes doing the damage, and poor old Harrison Minturn getting a red card as he attempted to mop up a misplaced pass from Lewis Ward. It was an interesting one, the goal, wasn't it? I mean, I'll take your view on this, Mike. What did you make on the particularly the first goal, which was a brutal way to concede, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just so frustrating for someone like Minturn to have that happen to him, because I do feel like he's got a bright future ahead of him, and he's, I think he's an academy product, isn't he? He's one of our own, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, he very much is.
You really want to see him do well, and I feel like when the ball sort of came through, he was sort of sold a bit short. Really, his momentum sort of carried him into the player, and in my opinion, I think it's debatable whether it was a pen, because he was sort of on the line. He was sort of a foot in the box, a foot out. So it was sort of a 50-50 almost. But the refs got to make the call, and I think he was arguing with the lino for the offside as well. So they had that sort of exchange before giving the penalty.
And then that's the thing. He's compounded it by then giving him a red card, isn't he? Which I'm guessing is denying an immediate goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, it's really, really frustrating. And up until that point, I did think that we were going to concede, but just not like that. If I'm honest, I was saying to Archie at the time, I was saying I think we're going to lose this game in regular time, because especially in the second half, we just weren't creating any chances, and we were getting pinned back our own half a lot. And even though we were comfortable on the ball when we were passing it around in our own half, we just weren't creating those offensive chances. I think after I looked at the highlights after the game, I think we created basically one clear cut chance right at the start of the game.
I'll tell you what we had, Mike. I'll tell you what we had. We had 55% possession, not uncommon for Swindon Town to be high in the possession stakes. And we had 3 shots to Walsall's 14. We had 1 shot on target to Walsall's 4. We forced 1 corner to Walsall's 6, and we committed 13 fouls to Walsall's 16. So the stats didn't look too pleasing for Swindon Town, but nonetheless, people that were at the game were reporting that Town were pretty much holding their own up until, obviously, it seemed to be we were holding our own up until the point Johnny Williams left the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna lie. The first half was definitely decent. It was more of that sort of Salford sort of as I've said, they're very comfortable on the ball in their own half and passing it through the lines, that kind of thing. And they did make that one sort of clear cut chance, and that was when Johnny Williams was on the pitch. He sort of passed it to Shaden his left, and then he tried a shot towards the far post, and the keeper saved it. But yeah, you're right. As soon as sort of that half ended, I'm not sure what sort of happened. It just it felt like the energy level sort of dropped, and the game started going south quite quickly, to be honest.
So just to go back to the sort of the selection of the side, then, boys. So we'll start with the goalkeeper. So Lewis Ward was preferred in the cup competitions to Sol Bryn. Now, there's nothing massively shocking about that versus the sort of selections that you saw from Ben Garner last year, giving his reserve goalkeeper an opportunity in the cup competitions, irrespective of the form of his first choice goalkeeper. But that's obviously against the backdrop of Scott Lindsay saying this year he's got 2 number ones. Now, what did we make of Lewis Ward's selection ahead of Sol Bryn?
Personally, I actually like that. A lot of the fan base, especially online, on Twitter, they were when Sol started the first game of the season. I was one of the people who was a bit confused about that decision because I really thought Lewis had earned the number 1 spot. But I think Lizzie's come out and said that he doesn't believe in a number 1, which is I think is fair enough. At the end of the day, competition for every sport, every role, I think is necessary in like a successful top level team. So. I'm really happy to see Lewis get some minutes. I think for the second goal, he could have maybe done a little bit better because the ball comes into him and he doesn't really hold on to it, and it's off the rebound. They sort of, Timmy manages to get the goal. But yeah, I do want to see more minutes with Lewis. I think the big issue is that in this system he's not incredible with his feet. So that might be why Sol sort of starting ahead of him. But yeah, I do want to see more from him this season.
Now, interesting. I mean, I don't know if you've heard anything, Mike, or if anything has bounced around, but I did hear a report that Lewis seemed to be having some form of sort of almost like I don't know, this could be complete nonsense, and we'll try and see whether we can get a line from the club at some point. But Lewis had some sort of nosebleed before the game, or appeared to suffer some kind of facial injury. Did you catch that? Was there anything that you've caught in terms of a ball in the face, or anything along those lines? Because the 2 errors that I saw were kind of uncharacteristic from Wardy. A real misplaced pass for the first goal that obviously led to a terrible defensive mix-up and a red card. And then, a very, very tame sort of dink into the box that Wardy sort of parried out towards his penalty spot. And then obviously, any striker is going to make hay from that kind of range. But again, was that just something that had been misseen, or is there anything that you've heard about that?
No, to be fair, I didn't really hear too much about anything happening in the warm-up personally from my sort of network or circles. But as you said, the goals he conceded were slightly uncharacteristic. I really like Ward as a keeper. I think his goalkeeping fundamentals are great. As I've said, I feel like his footwork on the ball and his sort of range of passing that could be improved slightly. But he's obviously a really good guy to have around the squad as well. He seems like a great fella. So
so Mike, the gaffer's then obviously he's gone for this back 3 selection. So he's gone Harrison Minturn in the right centre back position, Cian Harris in the centre, and Tom Clayton making his second competitive start for Swindon Town on the left side of the 3 central defenders. again, the reports I was getting from the ground at the time were that all three of them, particularly Harry's, were having a pretty steady evening. In fact, Harry's was really impressing. And at one point, obviously, Harry's was wearing the skipper's armband. So, what did you make of on generally of the back three performance, given that people have been giving it pelters?
Yeah, definitely. I've heard a lot about Harry's performance. I had a couple of people who were at the game, and they were sort of, as you say, sort of feeding back to me what was happening. And apparently, Kean Harry's was just sensational. He was sort of everywhere on the back line, getting really stuck in. I think at one point as well, he sort of took a bit of a knock, but he sort of soldiered on, and still was getting his legs in everywhere, blocking shots, that kind of thing. So it's really nice to see that from someone who has taken quite a bit of criticism as well. You want to root for someone to sort of turn around public opinion, especially as when he sort of came here. I think a lot of people were asking Bristol Rover fans about how they thought he performed for them, and there's a lot of negative sort of feedback, that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, it's happened a lot of times with players from other clubs who've not necessarily had great spells, and then they come to Swindon and then they can perform. Obviously the opposite has happened many times as well. But I think the lesson to learn is you've got to give them a chance, really. Give them a few games, see what they're about, and then make your decision off of how they play.
Well, someone that was at the game last night, Mike, was Arch STFC, who joins us. And hello, Arch. So you were particularly impressed with Kean Harry's. What was it about Harry's performance that caught your eye?
I mean, he was just really solid, to be fair. I think I saw he made one mistake in the whole game, which he then made up for. Ball got moved across the back line. He sprinted straight across the pitch, took out the player, fair play to him, decent tackle. And that was the only mistake he made. And other than that, he looked like a brick wall. So I mean, it was quality from him. Obviously, contrary to what most of Twitter was saying mere days ago before the game. But
what, as in the sort of criticisms that Kean Harris has been getting?
It was things like him not being able to hold up the ball, ball just passing through him like he isn't there. The mistakes and that sort of thing. Like, granted, he did make one mistake, but he did make up for it straight away. And I thought he looked solid, to be fair. He definitely came out with a point to prove.
Well, I think, listen, I mean, Kean Harris is an interesting player. We've talked on this show before about the fact that Swindon Town fans do love a whipping boy. Kean Harris didn't exactly cover himself in glory in the first pre-season friendly, or one and only pre-season friendly at the county ground. And ultimately picked up an injury, got hooked, whichever of the two it was, but came off. So I think people sort of, and the fact that he comes from the gas, people are going to always be inclined to he's got a little bit more to prove than most people. But it's great stuff that we've obviously heard that he's done a decent enough, or given a decent enough showing of himself last night. What did you make of young Harrison Minturn, Arch?
I thought it was brilliant. I didn't look out of place at all. Out of the younger players playing, I thought he was the strongest.
Can we just caveat that with, we think young Harrison Minturn was looking brilliant for 70 minutes until he was effectively...
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about the red card.
He was thrown...
It wasn't even a red. It wasn't a penalty either. If you watch it back, he's outside the box.
Yeah, but it's yes, that's very true. It's marginal. It's fine margins for young Harrison.
It was the referee's debut, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the Football League. So
and he was sold a pup as well, you could argue, by the keeper.
Yeah. Oh, God, Wardy had a bit of a shocker to me. But we love it. It's all right. All
right, so we got Harrison Minturn. What was it about? I mean, I saw Harrison pre-season against Woking. Yes. Thought Harrison looked like super stocky, looked really comfortable on the ball when he came on. Looked very composed for a young man, and also physically, year on year, he looks like he's hit the gym. He doesn't look out of place, does he?
He fits the role. Really well. Like he's a big lad now. I mean, he's definitely put on muscle. Out of the younger lads playing, 100%, he was one. I mean, Mo Darborough, I thought was a little magician. I thought he was quality. But
keep your powder dry on Mo. You big fanboy. Talk to me about the left-sided centre-back positions, Arch. So Tom Clayton came in on the left-hand side as he did on Saturday.
I'm biased about Clayton. No matter, even if he had a shocker, I'd still be saying he's amazing.
Well, that's not helpful.
Yeah, no, so. Clayton. No. But Clayton's one of those where he needs a little bit more weight on him. He's still a little bit too much of a too much of a stick at the moment.
Well, let's call it as it is. Then. So what we saying? Harrison's a lump, Kearns a lump, and young Tom Clayton is a. Or what we saying?
I think he's
he's
brilliant.
an elegant left-sided centre back.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of putting it.
But we need to get him on the Guinness.
Yeah, but he has already put on weight, hasn't he? He put on the 5 kg, probably about 2-3 weeks ago now, so there's probably more on him since.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Ricky McFarlane did say a week on Saturday when we had a chat with him about what's going on in the strength and conditioning, that they've recognised that Tom needs to put a little bit of flesh on his bones. Yeah. And at that stage, he'd already put, I think the figure was 2 or 3 kilograms that he's managed to put on his frame.
It was 5, I think he said.
5 kilos.
It was 5 on that day.
Okay, so all right. So what was it about Tom's performance then last night? Because there wasn't a lot in the write-ups and there wasn't a lot in the highlights. So what are we talking? Steady and unspectacular.
Yeah, I mean, and then he was making some decent passes out. He got caught out of position, I think, once or twice. But then again, it was his second ever professional game, so that sort of thing comes with time. But yeah, I mean, it was literally just he was steady at the back. I mean, didn't really make many mistakes. It's not one of those you see the ball heading towards him and it's like, oh god, like here we go. It's like he was decent. Like the balls he was making out the back were decent.
Neat, tidy, and steady and unspectacular by the sound of it. All right then. Well, look, I mean, Chris, bring you back in now because again, like pretty much an experimental midfield. Then, obviously, yeah, you and I weren't at the game. You and I got extensive highlights. And Mike was obviously having content piped to him live from the ground. Arch was at the game, so. The midfield lineup was George Calmedo on the right-hand side, Ronan Darcy after a really, really exciting showing against Salford, partnering Ricky Aguiar and Johnny Williams in the centre and Tyree Shade on the left-hand side. How optimistic were you, Chris, when you saw that midfield lineup, given the comments I've made about Darcy at the weekend, the reputation of Aguiar, the stature of Johnny Williams, and obviously Tyree Shade, relatively recent signing? You can kind of guess where my thoughts were at when I saw that midfield. It could have been a lot worse.
Well, it could have, but in that as well, the glaring error for me was that there's someone at the base to be a bit stronger. I mean, because the sort of role that Louis Reed plays or Jordan Lydon, to just give you that little bit more steel. I think the three of like Aguiar, Williams, and Darcy seem to be a bit similar. So they're decent players, but I just think I think the problem we've got at the moment is trying to find that best balance in our midfield. We've got so many good players in there, but we can't pick them all. So we just need to find which ones play the best together.
Yeah, no, see, Chris, it's very interesting because the gaffer's talked about how he's going to look to fit Ricky Aguiar into the piece. So we were playing him as an 8 last year when Jack Payne was injured. But the gaffer's been talking about him playing in that Louis Reed role. I'll put this to you, Mike, because obviously you've seen a lot of the highlights yourself. Did you see Ricky Aguiar playing in that deep sort of seated role, or was it that Ricky Aguiar was playing further out the pitch, or do you feel that Ricky Aguiar was given the opportunity to play in the central defensive role, but it just didn't work? Like, what did you see?
I think the whole match, to be honest, seemed to me like Lindsay was doing a lot of tinkering and experimenting. I was talking to Arch, and it was almost sort of like when Paolo Di Canio first sort of came to Swindon. He won his first game 3-0, but then he lost 4 on the bounce in the league, and you know. He just kept tinkering with the team over and over and over again until I think it was the January sort of transfer window. He signed Fodringham and a defender as well, and then ended up keeping a clean sheet, I think, for the next sort of 2-3 games, and then only conceded sort of 1 or 2 goals for the rest of the season. So I feel like that's what Lindsay is trying to do with this team. And when it comes to Aguiar, it looked like to me he was sort of occupying that sort of almost Reed kind of role. I feel like he was trying to be that sort of deep line playmaker and sort of pinging those balls and sort of progressing the ball forward, getting it through the lines. And personally, I really like to see that from him. You know, he's a very young player, and I think we signed him for was it 2 years or 3 years or something like that. And that's exactly the kind of signing I personally like to see.
Yeah, he's just signed a new extension, Mike. Look, Mike, pause your jets purely because the man with the air miles has joined us, Charlie Austin. Good morning to you, buddy. Oh, Charlie, please unmute your mic. I know it's early. Please don't tell me that you're tired and that you've forgotten how to unmute your mic. Sure, we'll give Charlie. I reckon Charlie might have snuck off for a coffee any second now. He's going to unmute.
I'm in.
Yeah,
Good
he's
morning.
here.
Good morning. I did.
Good
I
day,
forgot.
good day, Cobber. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. 6:34 it is now, pal.
Sorry, mate. I didn't see you jump on. So, yeah, I'm eating into my minutes, aren't I?
No. Just now I'm on. I'm all good, mate. How are we all? All right?
Yeah, well, do you know what, Charlie? The wonderful world of Swindon Town, the roller coaster is in full flight. You experienced quite a lot of ups and downs during your time at Swindon, certainly more ups than downs. And obviously, I know you experienced your own sort of controversies, and you've seen the downsides of Swindon fans as much as the upsides of Swindon fans. We'll come on to that, Charlie. We'll come on to that. Don't you worry. But I'm really, really keen to have a chat about can't take your mind back to last summer, Charlie. There were flags appearing in the county ground, all this kind of jazz. You came on the show. I was desperately trying to butter you up to get the inside track. How close was it, Charlie, for you pulling on the red again?
I mean, I don't want to kill your thing, Marky. Do you know what I mean? Because we spoke. The thing is, it was close. It wasn't close enough. I think it worked two ways. I think whoever put the flag up, I liked it, and then it got my juices flowing. And obviously, I can't. Of course,
it got all our juices flowing, Charlie. That was the problem.
I don't know if someone lost a bet and had to do it, or what it was, or they were just trying. I don't know. And then I come to a few games and all that kind of stuff, and then obviously Ben had spoken in the press regarding it. The only thing was there was a conversation to be had, I guess, but it never really materialised. So
yeah,
it was just one of them, mate. In the end, and listen, I made a decision that was based on a new experience for myself and my family, and hence why I am currently outside the world.
Yeah, you're literally round the other side of the world as we speak. But well, listen, how did that Aussie approach happen, Charlie? Because you're now down there, you're living literally the life of Riley. Beautiful sunshine, beautiful beaches. You've literally got on a stick down there. How did the Aussie approach actually happen? Because we saw your emotional farewell at Loftus Road to the QPR fans. Obviously, it was all it must have been in the works by then. But tell us the story behind it.
Do you know what, Mark? It weren't.
Really?
In the works by then. Sheffield United game. No, it wasn't. It wasn't in the works by then. I just knew. As a player, you get a feeling when your time's up at the football club, and people that would speak to me or ask for an opinion, etc. Like 6 weeks prior to that, then started distancing themselves and stuff. So it went a different way, which I was okay with. So I kind of knew what was going on, but I'd rather they was just straight with me sooner rather than later. And then it kind of just went from there. It was my last home game, when I didn't think I'd play in front of the Ars fans anymore. So it was just one of them. Anyway, fast forward 4 weeks, and I'm sat on a beach in Abu Dhabi, and I got a phone call from my agent from 3 clubs in the Championship that are northern teams. Obviously, I'm a southern boy, and I just said to Bianca, I just said, you know what, that don't excite me. That don't really excite me. I need a new challenge. I want to try something new. And I was going to sign for Nashville before COVID happened in the MLS when I was at West Brom. And that obviously put a stop to everything around the world. So, listen, I said to my agent, let's try something new. And he said, right, what about Australia? I said, let's roll the dice and see what happens. And listen, Brisbane come in, and I spoke to the manager, and fast forward again another 4 weeks, I'm on the plane, and that's it. Said my goodbyes, and now, mate, I get 365 days pretty much of sunshine, albeit about 10 days of rain. But what I can't get my head around is it's 20 degrees here. They're telling me it's winter time. These Aussies have got coats on, telling me it's cold. Honestly, mate,
you're rocking the Bermuda shorts and the flip flops, mate.
I'm shorts and t-shirt every day.
So how's the move gone so far? Has it all been hunky dory? Have you had any problems sort of like adjusting over there, or has it all gone sort of all been nice and fluid?
Yeah, it's nice. The jet lag took me 10 days to get over it properly. I was waking up 2 a.m, mate. So that was a bit that was like a strange one. Constantly, that was doing me. Now I'm like 6:30, which is perfect because when I look outside, it's just obviously blue sky, and I'm used to being up with the kids. I was in a hotel for a bit and for 2 weeks, but as a lot of say lone players, for argument's sake, Mark, that come and are in a hotel, like when you're on your own, I mean, you just got that one room. It's an absolute nightmare and all that kind of stuff. But now I'm in a house now. Which is nice, and I'm kind of losing my box because I don't know if any of you have seen my TikTok account that Austin's in Oz. I'm doing all some mad stuff on there, mate. But the best bit about it is with a house, I don't need to drive my car, mate, anywhere. It's like go food shopping or go to restaurants. I've just got a golf buggy, mate. I just drive a golf buggy.
So you're just literally bombing about Brisbane in a golf buggy. That is beautiful. What a
Basically,
moment.
where I live is like in like a community, quite a big community function. And down the bottom, there's like a marina, and it's got like 6 restaurants, a big Coles down there, which is like the equivalent of a Tesco's, all the other kind of stuff like chemists, lots of kind of a little village kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone just drives around there. I just drive around in my golf buggy with my ping golf clubs on the back.
Ready to go at any point. We noticed
Yeah.
that I noticed that Bianca's had a couple of tussles when she popped out in relation to big spiders and whatnot. How have you adjusted to the wildlife?
The only wildlife mine's kangaroos, mate. I've not seen touchwood, no spiders, no snakes or anything like that, which is perfect. But the kangaroos, mate, honestly, when you getting to see them and all that kind of stuff. Like I come back from the gym the other day, and I just see the big male one, muscly as hell. I couldn't believe it. Just sat by my car, right, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I chucked my gear in the back of the car and dived in my driver's seat, undone the window, and I couldn't believe how big he was just chilling. Them small things, Mark. Like I can't wait. My family come next Wednesday, yeah, and I just can't. The small things, the opportunities that Australia's going to give the children and stuff like that, especially Brisbane, because it's going to be nice weather for the majority of the year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just one that I'm so excited to embrace the journey with them the whole time.
But how was the welcome that you got from the club, Charlie, and the fans out there? What sort of scale give us an idea of the scale of welcome you enjoyed?
I mean, to be fair, the fan wise, there's loads of fans obviously on the internet and all that kind of stuff, and there's a big build up for the Leeds Aston Villa game and stuff. And the fans have been brilliant. But the club couldn't do enough for me, Mark. I've not had to. I've not really had to do anything. I had to Bianca came over for 10 days. We found a school, and we found a house and stuff like that, which was fine. But but with the football and everything like that, listen, the club have given me like the new sponsor's given me a new car. They just everything they've done for me really is just. I don't know. They say you're like a marquee signing over here, whatever that means. But I'm just here to play football, mate. Really.
That's amazing. Well, give us an idea of standards, Charlie. Like compared to sort of like the UK, the EFL.
Yeah, you can't, mate. You can't. You can't. I don't think you can, because the better players kind of go. They're going to jump ship and go overseas. Yeah, the majority of them go to Scotland. Yeah, and they'll go to like not Rangers, Celtic or anything like that, but you're looking at like Hearts, Dundee, Hibernian kind of thing. Yeah, the ones that come.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Would it be the equivalent of League One? I would say, but it'd be very hard to. It'd be very hard to say that the whole time.
Yeah.
I do think it's hard to compare the leagues, but I don't think the young lads here get enough credit or get shown enough. Like there's a couple of boys in our team that I play with, and I said to them, listen, if you just want to get across there someday and have a go, listen, let me know.
Yeah. Well, what about the actual club facilities, Charlie, themselves that Brisbane are offering you? Like, what sort of level of sort of talking about stadiums, training grounds, things like that? How's that stack up against what you've been used to in the UK?
Well, we train at a place called the Metricon Stadium, which is like we share the thing with the AFL. Now, the AFL, the Aussie football rule, whatever it is, the most maddest game. I have no idea, mate, what that is. But their obviously facilities are top drawer because that's like their number one sport over here. Yeah, so we share facilities with them, which works perfect for us. The pitches are okay, but you can't exactly. They flood the pitches with the water for like 10 minutes before we get on. After we've done the warm up, is that all? It just dries out again.
Yeah.
But it's okay. The pitches are. I haven't been to the Suncorp Stadium yet because obviously we've played an away game and then a few friendlies we'll probably play them at the training ground. They do a good thing over here in a way. Like they have the main league, Mark, yeah, and then they have like the leagues underneath them that don't get really promoted, but they have the leagues underneath. So they're entered into like the Australian Cup, yeah, which is the equivalent of the FA Cup over here in a certain way, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you get drawn, if the A League team gets drawn away to like the MPL, like the league below, the A League team always has to travel.
Yeah, gotcha.
So it's like a money spinner for the lower league, so they can get money and they can get stands in the fans in the stadium. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's quite a good idea. Australia have got a unique situation. They've got 10 months, really. If they really want football to push on, they've got a good 10 months. Socceroos have qualified for the World Cup, and then the Women's World Cup's over here the following year. So they've got 10 months to really embrace it. If they don't, then it's not going to grow as much as what people probably think.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Well, Charlie, we were talking about we talked about sort of like I'll be fascinated to get your take on and any messages you might want to give the Swindon fans. Obviously, last night was a very, very difficult. So obviously we've kicked off. We've got absolutely hammered on the opening game of the season away to Harrogate. Yeah, and then we followed that up with a very tough game against one of the real fancy sides on Saturday, Salford. We've had a man sent off. Harry McCurdy got sent off. A combination of
I've seen it.
Tackle, and then but the 10 men of town really dug in, sort of got themselves a very, very respectable point. But unfortunately they couldn't follow it up last night in the League Cup. What's been your take from afar, Charlie?
The most alarming thing, Mark, is you ain't scored a goal.
Mm.
You need promotion, finish top 6, top half. You need a goal scorer. You haven't scored a goal. I mean, Harry McCurdy did very well last year, but you can't rely on him to do it. Listen, if he does it again, fantastic, of course. But to rely on him again to repeat that, I'm not too sure. You only need to I'd only touch on it once. Look, in the first year when the lads got to the League One playoff final, me and Billy scored battered Bournemouth. The goals fluctuated between the pair of us. Then we had obviously Danny Ward. In the following season, it was only me that scored, and we couldn't get out of the bottom half of the table all year. Last year, you don't get promoted. Harry scores the goals, but the goals were coming from everywhere. I know it's only 3 games in, but to not even score a goal at the moment is a little bit of a worrying sign.
Yeah, a little bit of a concern. Well, the gaffers highlighted that he's in the market for a forward. I think there's not a Swindon Town fan on the planet that he's not urging him to bring a Simpson back to county ground. As whether that's realistic or not is not really for us to debate. Obviously, the chances of getting you back from Australia are pretty like Bob Open. So I mean, so you touched on the point there, Charlie, about realistically, and I'm not going to ask you to sort of put a timeline on it, but for a new team, if you came back and there was the level of overhaul, 30 new signings at the county ground, new manager stepping up from assistant manager, you've got a whole new assistant manager and a new number 3 come through the door. So it's a whole summer of sort of unexpected sort of whirlwind change. Where would you, in your mind, Charlie, be setting sort of deadlines for starting to see a bit of quality emerging and giving the fans a bit of hope?
Like, he must have the manager's obviously got his ideas on what he needs to do. The hard thing is he knows the group of players that are there. All right, he's lost players, I understand that, and new players have come in, but the majority of a handful of players would know what his work is like because he's there. Like you say, he's been promoted from assistant, so it's getting the new players in to buy into what he can do and what he's about. Listen, you kept hold of Ben Gladwin, you kept hold of Johnny Williams, who Johnny Williams is arguably the best player in League Two when he's on his day.
Yeah.
So you've got that quality there. So it's all about just adding to the team, adding the squad. I don't really know. The biggest worrying sign for me is, like I said, mate, is not scoring a goal. I think that's also a worrying sign for a lot of Swindon fans. Everyone holds their hopes on a goal scorer, don't they? Let's be honest. Not just Swindon, but every football club loves a goal scorer. The fact you haven't scored a goal is probably the most alarming sign. How long? You can't really put a time scale on. Listen, I think it's tough being a football manager now because you have no time. you have no time. There's so many options out there. There's so many managers and young managers out of work. So it's almost to the point of, well, if it doesn't work after such and such games, then they're gone. Time is no longer a friend of a manager for sure, unless you have a very, very unique chairman who is willing to give you time and back you.
Do you think that we should be bothered about being knocked out in the first round of the League Cup, Charlie?
No. And I'll tell you why. No, and I don't. And listen, that's not me defend the manager. This is my opinion of when I played here. When I played, I think we got knocked out a couple of times early doors. May have qualified through one round, and that was it. It's not the FA Cup. It's not that you're not. Okay, you get to the second round, you may play someone in the Championship. You third round, I think, whatever, you play someone, but it's not. The Carabao Cup is not the spirit of the FA Cup. If you get knocked out in round one of the FA Cup, then I'll be pissed. Then I'm annoyed because your target is to get to the third round. Everyone wants to be part of the third round when the big boys come in and that dream of a big tie. I'm not sure the League Cup has the same effect. It just adds an extra game so far starting, especially the start the lads have had. I'm not sure they needed the game coming in. But look, it happens. However, it would have been one nice where they've played 2 games, they've not won. Right, let's start tonight. I've been in dressing rooms like that. Right, our season starts tonight. Let's win tonight and then push on for Saturday. But unfortunately, it hasn't. Then the conversation has to then go on again. So they may be off today, and then it's Thursday and Friday, and then it's right. Come on, boys, our season has to start today. We need to get 3 points. We need to put smiles back on the fans' faces. We need to get bums on seats. The hardest thing they've got at the moment. The hype was real at Swindon, the back end for the last 6 weeks, and through the playoffs. The hype was real, and it's fantastic to see coming as a fan and all that. See the county ground again was packed and busy. But now that leads on to the players as well. Listen, if you ask them all what was it like to play in them last 6 weeks in front of the county ground as packed as it was, they'd have said they loved it. Well, the only way they're going to get that back is if they start performing and winning games.
Wow, Charlie, you've absolutely nailed it, mate. Well, listen, what's your day got in store for you, pal? I know you said you're preparing for the family coming over.
Well, do you know what? Where I am now, it's my daughter's birthday today.
Oh, bless her.
It's birthday, mate. So I got some stuff to do just over here in the morning, and then FaceTime birthday breakfast, dinner for me, breakfast for them this afternoon, mate. That's it, buddy. That's it.
All right, look, Charlie, your debut at Chazetta Football Australia, mate. We look forward to catching up with you again next week. Thanks ever so much for jumping on. Best of luck.
Worries, pal.
All of Swindon Town's love to the Austin family, buddy.
Always. Good luck, guys. Fingers crossed we can turn it. So we can get the season started on 3 points at the weekend. Yeah.
Outstanding, Charlie Austin.
On, mate. Take care, mate.
You take good care, buddy. Well, Mike, what do you make of that? Charlie never lets you down, does he?
No, it was actually proper well spoken, man, and his insight into sort of like the first round exit and his own playing experience, really unique and valuable. And it's really nice to have him on the show.
I mean, Mike and Chris, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, Charlie made a couple of really key observations there. Probably the 3 big takeouts for me were that, obviously it doesn't matter in his mind, his opinion as a former pro, former sort of, regular goal scorer for Swindon Town, hero in the stands. He doesn't give a monkeys that we've been knocked out of the League Cup, apart from the fact that it is just another opportunity missed to say, right, our season starts now. I think he's kind of hit on the key theme that I think anyone that's connected to the club, manager, the technical director, owner, fans, every fan in the stand can see that we are lacking in the forward department, aren't we? But it's very interesting, sort of Charlie talking about. You can tell there's a reluctance to kind of put any further pressure on the gaffer. I think that, there's enough of that already. But it's quite clear that, as he said, you just don't get time now, do you? And Chris, we sort of touched on this before about the manager. Time is not a luxury that he's got in the Swindon Town hot seat, is it really?
Well, no, it's not. It's I think it's this weekend really shouldn't be as big for him as it is, I think, and it's massive. I really hope we can just get something out of this weekend. And as Charlie touched on there, we haven't scored. But I think something a bit more worrying there is we haven't really created too much. But saying that, game against Salford, was it Hutton Cross that Jake got his head on and it was narrowly wide? If that goes in, is everyone's mindset completely different?
Yeah, and it wasn't just that, was it? There was a great opportunity for Ben Gladwin again at the weekend, and I think the nature of the second half performance is what a lot of us are going to be clinging to, in terms of trying to build some optimism. Because for me, like I've already forgotten about the League Cup. I genuinely, I'm kind of. It was a nice sense check hearing Charlie's kind of professional footballers sort of take and former Swindon Town professional footballers take on the League Cup and where that probably was in a lot of their minds last night. I've kind of parked it already. Going into Saturday's game away at Carlisle, it's it is that second half performance of Salford that I think I and pretty much everyone else is going to be clinging to. But listen. We'll pull ourselves back to, whilst I'm saying I've forgotten it, couple of other key things about the Walsall game yesterday. So we're talking about the forwards. I think there were a lot of hopes that we were going to see Harry Parsons notch his first town goal last night, and obviously that didn't happen. Harry Parsons started up front alongside Tommy Adaloy. Interesting again, Mike. Extensive highlights from you. What did you make of the pairing up top?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Adaloy was this is maybe his best game in a town shirt that I've seen. Obviously, it's not a big sample size so far, but there was like one sort of really nice moment at the start where he used his body really well and sort of battled someone. Yeah, and ended up sort of pushed them to the ground almost with like a really vicious sort of shoulder barge. Played it to the sort of other end of the pitch to Johnny, and then Johnny sort of laid it off to Shade, who had a sort of only really clear cut chance of the game, and yeah, he seems to be working well. Obviously, he seems like a striker. He seems to be deployed best in a front two. He needs someone to play off of, but his hold up play seems to be getting better every game. He obviously knows how to use his body. He's a big guy, so yeah, it'd be nice to see him come into his own.
I think the interesting thing you've mentioned his name there is Tyree Shade. So obviously started and finished on the left of the midfield five. Tyrese has got. I mean, he's one of these players where I kind of worry a little bit about him in the same way I used to worry about Ellis before Ellis really kind of put on his midfield flex. Tyrese Shade is one of these players where he's so versatile that you worry that he could end up just constantly being deployed as a jack of trades, master of none. Now, Tyrese, I love the way that Tyrese took his goal against Cardiff in the pre-season friendly at the county ground. I like the way he moves. He's deceptively quick, but he's got a very languid style of running, very, very sort of similar. He reminds me a lot of Ben Gladwin in that respect. I would like to see Tyree Shade given an opportunity, subject if we are going to struggle or we're out there trying to sort of like sort out this big number 9. I kind of wonder whether Tyree Shade might be the answer. Chris, do you take my point about Tyree Shade? Obviously, he's got fantastic physical attributes. You can't put a price on pace, and he's certainly not slow. I appreciate he's not the quickest, but he's certainly not slow. And the lad's got a shot on him as well. So, what do you think it would take for the gaffer to consider using Shade, given that but you would think by starting on Tuesday night, starting yesterday, he's not necessarily going to be in for a start at the weekend. Do you think that Shade is possibly an answer to the questions up top?
Later on in the season, I think he might be, but I think it's going to take a while for Lindsay to try that because he seems to want to have pigeonholed him into being a wing back. I'm not so sure that that's his position. But I think if we ever do go for that 4-3-3, I think it will be that might actually suit him if he was to play one of the wide roles within that. I'm not so sure. We should really be trying him in the centre because we've got to have better options than that, surely.
Yeah, well, okay, so we talk about better options at the moment. Our options look like, obviously, Harry Parsons, who we've mentioned. Harry, I think there is every single Swindon Town fan on this planet just willing Harry's hit the back of the net. And it would be very lazy of us to just say once the ball hits the back of the net once, he's going to keep doing it. But I think I'm quoting Lee Peacock from his guest ago, a few weeks back, where he seems to feel he's that kind of player. Like once he gets that kind of albatross from around his neck, away we go. But clearly started on Tuesday night, which sort of suggests that he's not in the thoughts for a starting berth on Saturday, irrespective. It kind of what I was gonna lead on to with this was like these youngsters that we saw on Tuesday night. Quite a few of these lads now have got to be looking at loan moves away, right? So who do you think? I'll put this to you, Mike. Who from the players that you saw start on Tuesday, given that we're now out of the League Cup, are shoo-ins for a loan move?
As in a loan away from town, you mean?
Yeah, a loan move away from the county ground.
Yeah.
If you were Gaffer and you were sat in his office right now, who would you kind of be considering sort of loaning out? Whether that's to make room in the squad for players coming in, or whether that's just from just pure development. Who are you looking at disappearing off out the door?
A name I'd like to see develop more. Oscar Massey. Obviously I think he's 18, so obviously very young. And I can't remember exactly which team he came from, but a few fans of the team, I remember seeing it on Twitter. They were surprised that they let him go.
Yeah.
So I think he's sort of prime. He needs game time. He needs he's quite big for his age. Like he looks like he's physical enough to handle sort of the men's game. So throw him in there. Do you know what I mean? Like almost sort of like a Scott Twine situation. Let him loose in the sort of non-league, I guess, and see if there's a team that's willing to give him some real minutes and see what he's about. I feel like that's what he's lacking personally. I'm not really sure about too many other names, to be honest. I feel like especially with forwards, we need to get a few names in. That would be my priority, really. Trying to getting Oscar out on loan, seeing what he's about, and then either getting like a proper another striker on loan or signing one permanently.
Yeah, I mean, I think really, I mean, Chris, please offer me your thoughts on this, but I think all roads appear to be pointing to Harry Parsons getting an opportunity. I would certainly like to see whether or not Harry's in a position to sort of like drop down into the National League, and I wouldn't want to see him drop down again to the this world. I'd like to see Harry given an opportunity, in the National League Premier. I think I think George Calmedo is probably at that stage of his development where you're probably thinking that's got to be Supermarine or Chip.
I think the obvious one is that Massey needs to go out on loan and play games, and let me see what we've got. Parsons does, and I agree with what you are. I don't want to see him at Chippenham because we've seen what he can do at that level.
Yeah, exactly.
What we need to see is what he can do a level up. Now, is there a National League team that will take him on? Also, the thing is with Dubre, is he going to get a look in here? And if he's not, then he also needs to go out on loan. These are good players, and look at the way that Twine developed from that. So it's not a bad thing to go out on loan.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about Darbre, I mean, I put it this way, I would get all the youngsters back out on loan. And I would obviously ensure that they can be recalled in January. Because I think Darbre offers you, obviously subject to injuries, Darbre offers you gives you options in a number of positions. I live just down the road from the Valencia Academy, and everyone there seems to be of the impression that he is going to be the next N'Golo Kante. Now that is high praise, isn't it? But however, young Ricky Aguiar's, clearly been given the nod from the gaffer in terms of a slight adjustment to his position and potentially playing in that slightly deeper role. So, I mean, I think it's probably you would wonder whether or not at this stage Anton Dvorak probably a bit too early for him to be heading out on loan. He's very, very young, and obviously Sonny Hart as well, who I understand was all set to come on last night just prior to Harrison Minturn being sent off, has literally just turned 16. But another player with huge physical attributes. One of those that from afar you can't quite believe the scale of him. When you get up close, you realise just how young he is. But whether or not the club would see fit to be loaning them out yet, or whether or not that
Well, to be honest, I think Minturn's probably a guy who would benefit from going out and playing 2 or 3 months, week in, week out.
Yeah.
And but the thing we've got with Dubre, everyone says he's great in that number 6 role, and I don't think we've ever tried him in that role. He's always played somewhere else.
It's such a pivotal role, Chris, though, isn't it? That's the thing. It's, you've noticed when we've been missing Louis Reed, we just don't look the same team. And that's an awful lot of responsibility to be putting on Mo's shoulders. That said, the role does appear to have been tweaked a little bit this season from what I can see. So, you know, maybe he will get his chance. But even last night when he came on, obviously came on for Calmedo and was playing in a wide position. So again, maybe it's just that, you know, what has been seen local to where I live on the London-Kent border and what the football club be are two very different things. But anyway, listen, let's part Walsall. As I say, I think the interesting thing was we had a good take. You know, we had a good input from Charlie Austin in terms of, you know, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of input. And I think we can all kind of calm our jets, you know, a little bit, as frustrating and as irritating as that is. I think we all knew that, you know, to use your vernacular, Chris, that, you know, we're kind of hoping that the gaffer got off to a flyer at the start of the season. To quote Charlie directly, you don't get a lot of time in football these days. Fans are impatient. Everyone's impatient. Last night won't have helped. However, one thing I will say, my closing gambit, and I'll get your views on this, guys. It was ballsy from the gaffer last night. Ballsy to pick that team in the face of, you know, sort of significant pressure from some quarters of our supporter base. You know, whilst I think he would have been damned if he does, because if he goes with the team that with an extra player plugged in from the second half of Salford and we pick up injuries, as I said, he's going to get absolutely pillared for doing that, even if we won the game. Because if we then go into Carlisle with injuries or problems or whatever that might be, players carrying knocks, people are going to be asking why. So he's obviously twisted. He's gone with an experimental side. He's given all these young players an opportunity. And obviously the selection hasn't worked in terms of getting the win. So he's damned on that respect as well. Chris, do you follow my logic when I'm saying it was a very brave decision, whichever way you cut it, from the gaffer last night?
It was a very brave decision, but I think from the situation we're in, I don't think it was the right one. I think because we have looked quite disjointed, I thought we would have benefited more from trying to get a stronger team playing well together and getting to know each other. On that ground, I think he's probably missed a trick there.
Yeah, I think that's it's in obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. I think in reflection, I don't think there's going to be too many people that disagree. And as I said at the start, when I saw the lineup, my immediate reaction, I mean, I'm glass half full on most things, but my immediate reaction was, wow, like that is either very, very brave or foolhardy. And I couldn't quite work out which of the two, which is kind of unusual for me. However, like I said, the fact that I'm sort of over the League Cup already pretty much tells its own story. But look, let's park Walsall. Just prior to getting on to you know, talking about our quote phone in for tonight, got quite a lot of other business that's happened around the county ground. Ellis Iandolo has signed a new 2-year deal. Michael, I'll get your thoughts on that. How chuffed are you to see Ellis? Before you know it, he's going to be getting a testimonial, isn't he?
No, I'm a huge fan of Ellis. I feel like last season was probably his best season at Townshire. Obviously, he's had injury plague his sort of previous seasons, and yeah, we saw the best of him. I thought genuinely it was a masterstroke to put him in midfield, and some of the games he was producing these absolutely line splitting, you know, across the field sort of passes, and it was beautiful. Sort of, you know, reminiscent of De Bruyne. Obviously, I'm, you know, nowhere near that level of performance, but the actual passes, some of them, they were just really, really impressive. So, yeah, nice to tie him down for another couple of years, and he's our longest serving player for a reason. You know, I want to just see him continue to fulfil his potential, really.
And it's just so cruel on Ellis, isn't it? I mean, a nice boost for him at the same time that whilst he's struggling with the injury, it looks like it's going to keep him out, I believe, I read today, for 6 to 8 weeks. Ellis, I believe it's a quad injury that Ellis is struggling with and has been struggling with all the way through pre-season. Yeah, a nice way to kind of soften that blow for him. What's been equally frustrating is down the left-hand side, we've also suffered what sounds like going to keep him out for 4 to 6 weeks, an injury to Reece Devine. Chris, that really is a pain in the backside for us, isn't it? Because you can't effectively, you've got your two first choice left wing backs, stroke left backs, haven't you, ruled out for a considerable period of time.
It is that as well, but I know we have discussed this many a time as well. I would really hope Iandolo never plays left back again, because how good he was in midfield versus, it was great going forward, but he looked as a left back, but he was a bit dodgy sometimes defensively. And I just think his future's in midfield. And I would love to see him in that role because he was so good there. Obviously, he's never
to us. Chris, no one listens to us in this respect. It's just something that keeps on happening with Ellis. As much as we campaign for left centre midfield, as much as I say he's got to be the first name on the team sheet, he's still ended up back in left wing back. So
yeah,
but
no, I don't mind a bit being there as cover, but we don't need to pencil him in as a left back. You know, if we lose two of them, which obviously we have now, then he can play there. But really, he's got to play in midfield, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he has. But Reece, so going back to Reece Devine, however, obviously we signed him from Manchester United, described as absolute engine. And if you think about Romeo Hutton's performance on Saturday in the second half against Salford, how he was up and down that right flank, the idea of having that mirrored on the other flank, we were able to see in pre-season in glimpses from Reece Devine. I mean, super quick, great engine on him. You know, for him to sort of come into the club, pick up an injury before he's even said boo to a goose, that is going to be really frustrating for the kid, isn't it?
It is. And also, we because of that, we also near enough wasted Hutton at Harrogate because he was on the wrong side. And let's be honest, he's not got a left foot, has he?
No, he hasn't got a left foot. I mean, listen, it's one of those things. I mean, we talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks on the show about, Hutton, Hutton on the left-hand side as a right footer. For me, it's a clear red flag. I'm sure. I'm going to, it's going to happen again. I'm sure at some point in the season, I'll end up eating my words. It's always the case. But I saw enough from Hutton on the right-hand side on Saturday. Say, right, that's quite frankly, that's where he's got to be. But listen, our left-hand side problems, however, today were fixed by the signing of Fraser Blake Tracy. Signed on a season-long loan from Burton Albion. So good that we've got him in, and we've got him in long-term because it kind of takes the pressure off. But Burton fans haven't been hugely complimentary about this young man. It made a good name for himself in non-league at Kings Lynn, where he pretty much got everybody chattering. Was one of these players that got scooped up by Peterborough. They've got a fantastic scouting network in and around the non-leagues. Was at Peterborough. Has ended up pitching up at Burton Albion, where it's just not kind of worked out for him thus far. And he's been suggested to me today by Burton fans as their, quote, third choice left back, and certainly not a Football League standard. Now, obviously, I take that with a pinch of salt because we have all of that, from any club that the player goes. It's very rare that they openly enthusiastic about young Mr. Blake Tracy. But just fundamentally good from a balance point of view, Chris, to have an orthodox left-sided sort of, fullback in through the door, isn't it?
It is there, and obviously that's one of the reasons that Scott Lindsay's given for us for playing the three at the back, because we don't have the players to play for. Now, this might give us the option to play something that I think will suit our players better. I would have preferred Joe Tomlinson, but that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I listen, again, there's not a Swindon Town fan listening to what you just said that would disagree with you. I think Joe Tomlinson was hugely popular last season. I think that the problem with Joe Tomlinson is he is a cracking player. Peterborough, Darren McAntony, the owner of Peterborough, has spoken glowingly about how he feels about Joe Tomlinson. I think Joe Tomlinson is one of those kids. He's a fantastic presence around the club, whether that be their club or our club. One of those characters you can just imagine sticking out. He's not been starting a lot of games at Peterborough this season, which is why certainly I was tweeting about him yesterday. But he's in and around that kind of first team picture. He's in a higher league than us. He's not going to be a player that they're going to let go. Certainly, if they let him go permanently, it's going to be for quite a pretty penny, knowing Mr. McAntony and the way he runs his transfer business. But I think the issue that we would have there is I think I was kind of hoping we might have got a Tomlinson, sort of get him on loan through till Christmas. But really, is that the answer? Or
well, going back to Tomlinson, I think, and this is only specific to him, that this is the last year of his contract. Yep. So if he's not playing at Peterborough and we're interested in taking him on, then they might be interested in taking it for a fee rather than let him walk.
Oh, don't.
But that's more so of me hoping than reality.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be very, very surprised if Peterborough allow a player of Joe Tomlinson's quality to run his contract down. He did cut a fairly frustrated figure at Swindon Town last season when he first arrived. You know, he was saying he just wanted to play football. Similar situation to what he's facing this year. He's kind of in and around the first team, but not getting starts. It seems to be continuing. I've not followed this story close enough to be able to sort of like really, really comment on it. But I think one thing that we all agree on, Joe Tomlinson would love to see again in a red and white shirt. Now,
and there's nothing better than seeing a proper Swindon fan playing for Swindon.
Oh yeah, local lad, isn't he? One of our own, as he liked to tell us. So listen, Sandro Di Michele gave a very, very good interview to the BBC yesterday pre-match, where he talked about I mean, it was good from a point of view that I think it got us all excited, and he's promised us a new left back. The left back's been announced as was promised. He's also talked about the fact that it appears that there is an ongoing hunt for a new striker. Now, we touched on this earlier. Charlie was obviously talking about, you know, he understands what is alarming for Swindon fans is a lack of goals. I'm sure it's alarming for Scott Lindsay, and I'm sure it's alarming for everyone right the way through the club. So I don't know if you caught the interview, Chris, but it was fairly, he sounded fairly determined that, you know, obviously the hunt's ongoing, that they're determined to get another striker through the door.
I didn't hear the interview. I was a bit busy yesterday, so I just sort of like was having one of those funny off days, having been away.
But, what about Mike? Did you hear anything? Did you hear anything in terms of Sandro's interview, either talk of the town or live whilst you were following the highlights?
No, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't actually catch the interview. I afterwards I went to see if Lindsay, see what he said in his interview after the game. But no, I didn't catch the Sandro interview, sadly.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, as I said, I mean, without meaning to sort of repeat myself, Sandro gave a pretty determined interview where there was an acknowledgement that effectively we need to get another striker through the door, that the hunt is going on. I think we all know, speaking as Swindon fans, who we'd like through the door. We'll have to just sit tight, won't we, and wait and see. So we've got Town are going to be news broke today that Swindon Town are going to be back in court, where it's going to take for the court another hearing is going to take place at London's Insolvency and Companies Court on September the 22nd at 2 p.m. Now, the gist of it, as I understand it so far, is that a High Court judge has dismissed but given Able an opportunity to appeal against the dismissal of the petition to have Swindon Town, or the winding up petition against Swindon Town. That has, as we discussed on the show with Rob Angus on Saturday, there's been a request from a company called Centerplate, who are an international, I believe US-based catering firm, who have asked to be substituted into that winding up petition, which the club are fighting with full gusto, where they're saying that they dispute the amount that is being levied at the club as owed to Centerplate. So September the 22nd at 2 p.m. Is when the next hearing is going to be. So keep yourselves peeled, keep your eyes peeled on that. Alex Pollock at the Trust has promised us that the Trust are going to stay across all the court activity and will continue as they were last summer to be a great voice of interpretation for us as we move through all of the legal mumbo jumbo. So, at this stage, it's been a fairly rambunctious week, is probably the best way to say it. And I'm going to try and bring Ash on and try and encourage as many points of view as possible onto the space. At the start of the show, I said that it's become a fairly toxic place, particularly on Twitter at the moment. And the words that I used were, I said, it's become a little bit bipolar, our social media landscape. And I used the word, is it a question of, have we lost the ability to debate? Have we replaced debate with disposition? There's a lot of suspicion around at the moment. Love to get to the bottom of the roots of people's feelings in that respect. I've talked about the fact that I can tell you for a fact in the last 48 hours, I have been horrendously trolled on my direct messages by people that are apparently emboldened by a certain anonymity that they enjoy online. And it's very, very easy to forget that these are real people sat somewhere with a phone in their hand or a computer sat in front of them that are just spilling pure bile. I have had allegations against me that I am somehow linked in with Lee Power. I've had allegations that I'm on the payroll of the club. I've had allegations that I've only been a fan. Like, where have I come from? Who is this Cockney-sounding muppet, Mark Hanrahan, who says he supports Swindon Town? I've never heard of him before, therefore he must be a total charlatan, despite the fact that I tell everyone that, listen, I've been a bloody fan for 35 years, but still, I've also been called a happy clapper. And I've been at pains to say to people, listen, there are very good reasons in my personal life why my glass is half full. And that's not for me to debate in the open space. But there are things that go on in my private life that lead me to be a little bit more glass half full. But people nonetheless will say that my happy clapping is replacing realistic caution. And I've said that there are barbed comments and insults that have been flying around this week and, allegation, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, tonight we're going to try and get to the bottom of all of that. And I'm delighted Ash is joining me. I'm just going to make this point as well. At no point has Ash is a friend of the show. He's been part of our, very, very well-regarded individual coming on our show pretty much since the day dot. Ash has not been trolling anybody, but Ash, by his own admission, has got a few kind of negative viewpoints about the club at the moment and has been engaged in some pretty fiery debate. So, Ash, good evening to you, buddy. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, that's just about right. I'm just right. I've been following the club for fucking years and years and years. I'm 39, so I'll be out in the open about it. I'm 39, right? And do you know when, having followed them for so long, you feel things, or you could see something coming before it comes, or you can see it happening before it happens. And then anyone that's followed the club for that long will have that feeling.
So it's experience, Ash, is what you're saying. Your experience.
Yeah, for sure. And unfortunately, a lot of it, bloody hell, mate. Like, so the early days for me were obviously Hoddle, Ozzy. Macari was my first season, then Ozzy, then Hoddle. But I was blessed. I was 11 years old with Hoddle in the Premier League. I was in my final year of primary school. It was massive. To be in the sticker book was just fucking enormous, But as you get older, you just get the same things. You just see the same things happening every now and again. And mate, the biggest thing for me, and I'm massively bothered by it, is the recruitment. It's not right. Like, I don't like the fact that I believe last season's squad is better than this season's squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've signed, I honestly think they could loan 10 people tomorrow and they'd need to get another 6 people in. And that bothers me a little bit because they've not signed those people with the thought that, we're just going to keep them and then we're going to loan them out anyway.
Yep.
At the moment, we've got, 5 strikers? 4 strikers? 4 or 5? On paper, we've got 4 or 5 strikers.
Yeah, we've got Oscar Massey, we've got Harry Parsons, we've got Tommy Adeloy, we've got Harry McCurdy, and we've got Jake Wakeling. You could argue are your 5 senior strikers, for want of a better word.
So last season, obviously, I live in Chippenham, right? So every now and again, I go and watch Chippenham, and I've got a lot of mates that are season ticket holders at Chippenham, and having watched Chippenham over, even through Twine's time at Chippenham, like way back, I've followed Chippenham for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Mo Dabry was nowhere near it at Chippenham's level last year. people might be surprised to hear it. They might not, but he was nowhere near it. And if you came and watched a Chippenham game at any point last season, and if anyone on here has watched a Chippenham game last season, Jordan Young by a country mile is the best player at that club, and Harrison Minturn was a very close second at that level last year. And Ricky done well at Chippenham, and I know it's horses of courses and stuff like that, but you look at like building a squad for this season, and it just bothered me that they've gone out and they've signed that we've now got 5 strikers on the books, which as a Swindon fan is pretty much unheard of over many a season now, to have that many strikers at your disposal, albeit, yeah, okay, they're a little bit raw and they're a little bit young and whatever, but Tyree Simpson was raw and young, and he wasn't ours, he was a loan, and I appreciate that. But that one Tyree Simpson is the other, he renders the other ones unimportant. And it doesn't mean those as professionals are unimportant. It means that they've still got a journey and a path to go down to reach that level potentially.
Yeah.
And we're still talking about it on here tonight that we need to go out and sign more strikers. So that can't mean that the recruitment's been good, that there's now 5 on the books and we still need to go out and get another one.
Do you think, Ash, it's still a little bit early, given that we've got...
It is, but mate, like I'm thinking about a budget thing. So we've got 5 people on the books now that we're potentially saying that none of them are any good at this point in time, and some of them need to go out on loan, and some of them need to sit on the bench, which I appreciate, because that was probably something that we didn't have, that we could offer last season, is to bring someone on for 20 minutes up front to just change it about or provide a different role or do something different in the forward line. Really, it wasn't, was it? We pretty much, we attacked every game with a very stringent game plan. We very rarely deviated from it. We played pretty much the same every single time. And then if we looked at the bench, it would be a tiny, like a minuscule change of like, I don't know, putting Gladwin on just to keep hold of the ball for a little bit more in the middle of the park. We weren't crashing through things, but
yeah,
no, it just, to be honest, mate, I genuinely, the recruitment scares the living daylights out of me. Honestly, it does. It does. I look at it and I think, I genuinely think that they could loan 8 to 10 out of that squad. And I know that Scott said at the start that he wanted to keep the squad tight. He wanted to have 23, 24 players that were all training together, all had a chance of playing football or whatever. And I just feel that we've overinflated it. We've probably... I don't think we stretch a budget. I don't think we've touched the budget, in all honesty. I don't think we've pushed it to that level. But I think that we've potentially got money on the books that I'm not sure it's ever going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Or how long it's going to take for that to come to fruition. Like, I like Harry. I do like Harry Parsons. I've watched him at Chippenham 5 times last season, I think. And yeah, there's definitely a player in there, and I'm not having a go at individual players or anything like that. But Harry's got a journey to go on. Now, if he's got a journey to go on, do we really need 2 other people or 3 other people going through a journey at the same period of time? Yeah, possibly if you're looking at like 3 years down the line. And I don't want to be short-sighted, but for what we produced last season, in what we're saying was like a 2-week window prior to the start of the season, and a couple of additions and a few loan signings through the season, I don't think this squad's as strong as last season's.
Now, I think one thing wanted to say about the strikers there. Obviously, Massey's coming in as young, and Parsons are young. So they're people. We've got the views of long term with them. So I'll take that back to 3, and then you've got Wakeland and Adeloy. Because for me, and you might disagree with this, McCurdy's not really a striker. He's far better being in that free role or out wide and coming in. So with 2 young people, I think we're looking more down the line with them. That's where we're suddenly left with 2 strikers.
So then we're going to go from 2 to, we're going to then, ultimately, the 2 that we've got, we want 1 more. So we're going to go to 3 strikers. But in a setup, what do you think we're going to play? Like, or what would you ideally like to see? Like, from my point of view, the second half at the weekend, which probably is the same point of view for absolutely everybody, that when we went from a 3 to a 4, we were a much better side. Like, considering we only had 10 men on the pitch, had we had that extra person in the midfield, or Springer from a 10 that was going to go and pick up that second ball, we probably would have won that game. Now, going with the 4, so if you go with the 4, you're going to go 4-3-3. So you're going to play 1 up front, and then with the 2 strikers that we've got, and you're going to put McCurdy out on the wing, and then you're going to go and sign another one. That means we've got 2 spare strikers on the bench, 1 up front, McCurdy wide of a 3 potentially. So if you play 4-3-3, that is that what you're thinking?
Well, listen, I mean, I'll jump in at this stage because I think the gaffer is kind of, I think he's nailed his colours to the mast. I think for the foreseeable, I think he's going to persist with the formation that we saw last night. But I think you've heard interviews from Harry McCurdy where you can hear the frustration in his voice. You know, he said about essentially, he's in that position, like, you know, obviously he's playing football, but he wants to be in a position where he's affecting games, he's getting on the ball, he's making things happen. So, you know, clearly, if you're Harry McCurdy, I get the impression that you'd like to see us reverting back to, you know, to a front 3. Me personally, am I a fan of 3 at the back? No, not unless we've got. You know, I think my point was earlier in the week, I tweeted, unless we've got someone like Glenn Hoddle playing in between 2 sort of like big stopper centre backs, I'm not a fan of 3-5-2. And I agree with you, Ash. I think we were. I thought we were fluid. I thought we were fantastic in the second half against Salford. So, I guess I still don't know what I think my head. The reason I am struggling for clarity on it is probably the same as Scott. I still think there are so many options that are emerging in that squad. I mean, I don't know how you felt about this, Ash, but we all know that Ronan Darcy is half decent player. Anybody that, you know, has kept an eye on some of the comments from the Bolton fans, they were sad to see him go. But I don't think any of us would have foresaw that we would have seen quite such an exciting debut from Ronan Darcy on Saturday, which that also puts the cat amongst the pigeons, because then that's raising questions now about Johnny Williams. That's raising questions about Saidu Khan. That's raising questions about Ben Gladwin and their roles in the team and who plays where, and are we going to start looking at square pegs and round? So I still think it's so early in the season that the gaffer is still, and there's been such change behind the scenes, the gaffer is still getting his head around what is his best team. I'll tell you what really interested me though, Ash, just listening to you talk. So you were unbelievably eloquent. Whether or not I agree with what you said is here nor there, and that's not. I'm not being sarcastic or facetious. It's a debate, right? This is all very healthy. What is it about socials that takes a conversation that we've just had, which is all very reasonable? Because I've seen you engaging in some proper fiery stuff this week, where you've been on the receiving end of you know, I don't know whether you would call the more positive brigade going at you, but it gets very fiery. Is it the fact that it's only 280 characters on Twitter and therein lies a problem because there's a certain amount of frustration? Whereas there's a certain cathartic nature around being able to come on shows like ours and talk about it. What is it you think, Ash, that just kind of feeds this bipolar narrative or bipolar discord amongst the Swindon fans?
Mate, there's never enough words, is there? And then people take when you write something down, it doesn't matter whether you send a text message to someone that you're working for. They read it how they want to read it in the tone that they want to read it in their head. So when you write anything, it's irrelevant how you are writing it in your head, because they're going to read it how they want to read it. So when they read it and they see it negatively, or they want to have a pop at you about it, they're going to do it because whatever I write or whatever anybody writes can be interpreted slightly differently. So you could try and flower it up, but in the amount of characters you've got, sometimes you can't do it. Like, my point is, throughout all of this, I've been concerned all through pre-season, to be honest. I'm like, I've got massive, for me personally as a Swindon fan, like, if and I had a chat with a bloke on Twitter this week that said that most of the recruitment last year was actually down to Garner, who he'd spoke to somebody else. It's like one bloke says one thing, one bloke says another, and then we just had a little chat about it.
But Ash, let me jump in at this point, because that's also a really, really valuable point to talk about, isn't it? Everyone seems to know someone who knows someone who knows someone that's given them
that's true.
And that in itself causes irritation.
Of course it does.
Do you remember, like, earlier in the season, one of the Trust guys came out and just probably poorly worded a tweet, but it kind of gave the impression that he was in the know. And the amount of umbrage that got taken from that.
That is the problem, though, because when people put stuff in writing, if people want to read it in one way, they're going to read it in one way, and there's nothing you can do about it. Once you've tweeted it, that's it. If they read it negatively, however they read it. Now, I'm normally quite positive about stuff, or especially with how we're playing or something like that. I'm not massively. I'm not a football manager. Let's be honest, but I know that Swindon Town side are going to be better in the four at the back. Instantly, after last weekend's performance, I know they're going to be better because they've got that extra man in midfield. On Saturday, we lost Harry McCurdy to a red card. But what we actually achieved is taken Brennan out of the fire, because he's not quite here yet. Whether we might get better out of him, but at the moment he's not quite here. So the losing of Harry McCurdy gave us that extra man in midfield. As soon as we had that extra man in midfield, at times Salford couldn't cope with it, and we had one less man on the pitch. That was something that happened during that game, and I'd like to think that the signing of the left back, although I did think Clayton was good, really, really good. And I did think that you would get the same performance out of Hutton at right back as you would get at right wing back. In the second half, he was arguably better than he was in the first half. But I don't know. Do you know, I'm scared about the recruitment. I am. It's my biggest fear. And the other thing, do you know, the other thing, just quickly, is that last season, obviously, Scott Lindsay was here. He's seen us play with three at the back. He's seen how three at the back work in this league, and because it's quite direct, this league. So when a team thinks that they can put something on you in an area, they'll just do it relentlessly. They won't. There's no second option. They just do it relentlessly. So if you've got a weakness at wing back where you leave a massive void anywhere on the pitch, they will just bang that ball into that area and they will just run at you down that side. And I just think in League Two, wing backs is a step too far. With the four at the back, you just know where you are. You've always got a right back. You've always got a left back. Yeah, they will get caught out of position, but getting caught out of position makes it an individual's responsibility. When they're playing as a wing back, they're not so much caught out of position. They're where they need to be, but there's just a void in behind them. Now, that void, arguably, for me, when you look at a back three, so if we play with a back three, we lost Odemeo through the summer, but Odemeo is the perfect man to play in a back three because he had the legs and the guile to go across and cover that area. So we've lost him, and then we've then replaced him with we're looking at McDonald Baudry if we can keep him fit for I don't know, like, bless him. I mean, Frenchie, Jesus, what are we going to get out of him this year? Let's be honest. Are we going to get 25, 30 games out of him? If we do that, we've probably nursed him, we've looked after him, and he will have met all our expectations, in all honesty.
I don't think you should have too many concerns about Frenchie this season. I think obviously he was very kind enough to come on the show last week and spoke very, very eloquently about the way his body's being managed and his expectations in relation to sort of getting through this season. I don't think he would have shortchanged our football club by signing up for another season, particularly when he's got the opportunity to go and work in the financial industry, financial sector, and actually make a whole new life for himself in that respect.
Yes,
I don't believe there is nothing in it for him to have another year unless he can absolutely deliver. So I don't think you got too many concerns. But look, Ash, I just want to I want to bring Jason in at this stage, and Jason, I'm really interested to get your take on this. So hopefully, Jason, if you unmute your mic. I mean, this week I mentioned at the start of this segment, I have taken some absolutely scandalous abuse on the DMs this week. Less scandalous on the tweets, but still people casting aspersions in my direction about my integrity or this some kind of shadow role that I've got at the club, or essentially taking my I know I probably shouldn't talk about my own characteristics, but I have a fairly sort of positive, some describe it as a cheery demeanor, and describing it as me being a happy clapper. Which I take massive umbrage at, because I like to think I'm pretty realistic, albeit, I am positive, right? Unashamedly so. So here's the thing, Jason, the impact of some of these people. Now I could mention names. I'm not going to mention names. We all know who the names are that I'm talking about. The kind of people that come on and put some of the most, it's like they've got nothing. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. I wouldn't never say that to somebody in a social sense, but there are people with a clear anti-club ownership agenda. There are people that no matter how well the club that they say they support is doing, they're just willing to put the boot in. They're willing to be relentlessly sarcastic. They're willing to essentially just snipe and snark at the football club. What kind of impact does that have on you, Jason, as a follower, a devoted follower of Swindon Town? Does it wear you down?
Do you know what, Hannes? I've spoke to you on many occasions, face to face, and through here, and I've got to say, listening to some of these fans or reading their tweets, I'm normally one of the most negative people there are when it comes to football. I've been a fan, been a player. I now coach, so I'm, when you're seeing your team not doing very well, you do get quite. I personally get quite negative. But some of those tweets, it's like you're writing a team off. You're putting us basically into relegation, that we are going to be relegated in the next 44 games. Give your head a wobble. Do you know what I mean, Hannes?
I think. I mean, listen, you're preaching to converted in that respect. I mean, listen, this is my logic on it, Jason. Right? I remember being on a family holiday and we were in Barcelona, and we were 13 games into the Paolo Di Canio reign, and at that time, I was the shirt sponsor at Swindon Town at the time. And I was on a phone call with the football club because it was like we just couldn't find a win from anywhere, and the opening day dazzling victory over Crewe just seemed like a million miles away from that kind of very, very dark point that we seem to find ourselves in. And I was told by people that know a hell of a lot more about football than me. Call your jets, like a little bit like what Joey Barton said last season at Bristol Rovers. They were literally speaking like that. We're going up. Don't worry about it. We're going up. We know we are. And there was me saying, yeah, but we got this guy. He's burning through the money. He's bringing these players in, and they're getting half a game. Some of them aren't even playing. He's binning them off again. Like, what must morale be like beyond the season? They were like, Hannes, don't worry about any of that. We're going up. Make no mistake about it. Lo and behold, come the turn of the year, we dispatched Northampton away. Everyone will remember that brilliant, brilliant night at Sixfields with Di Canio dancing down the pitch and all that jazz. And then we just went on that run, and we just essentially, the afterburners turned on. And I'm being told by people that know a lot more about football than I do that a similar thing should be expected this year. Like, people are making the same noises. So, listen, for me, I'm willing to be patient, but let me just be very, very, very clear, Jason. Like, I am no happy clapper, and I've stated from the absolute outset, if we are in the same position now in terms of levels of performance, and I go to football to be entertained, I'll be the first one to be moaning if I'm walking out the county ground with 10 games played and we're still struggling to muster 3-4 shots a game. I'm going to be literally kind of, hang on a minute, I've got a season ticket here. I travel 240-mile round trip to come and watch this lot, and I don't come all that way for 3 or 4 shots. Now, I'm really positive off the back of Saturday, Jason, but if you get my meaning, to your point, I just do not see the point of throwing the baby out with the bathwater after essentially 135 competitive minutes, like of crud, but 45 minutes. I loved it on Saturday. That second half was pulsating. So I'm just kind of, my view is just calm the hell down. It sounds like you're of a similar mindset, but does it? I mean, you said about being negative, Jason. I mean, you and I have crossed swords on socials, and also we've had good quality debate in person. But what do you think these people are trying to achieve? These people, because these are people at the end of the day. These aren't bots. What is it these people are trying to achieve when they come online and they purport to be supporters of Swindon Town Football Club? It's like they haven't got a good word to say about the club, and yet their biographies are red and white. There's pictures that are kind of disguised with sunglasses or hats or whatever, but they're wearing the shirts. They got the scarves up. They're talking the talk. They're convincing us that they're Swindon Town fans, but they're going like they're just relentless. What is that? What is it you think these people are trying to achieve? And by the way, if you are one of those people, please accept the invite and come on. I must have asked about 8 of you to come on tonight and just talk us. We're not going to slate you. I want a really measured conversation about it. I just want to hear why you do it. I want to understand the root behind why you do what you do. And I also want you to understand the impact of what it has on other people, because the impacts on some people that are being very kind of guarded and polite tonight, the impacts can actually be, for some people, fairly significant to what their mood's like or the mental health. But I mean, Jason, can you plug in on this point, mate? Do you understand the point I'm trying to make? I struggle to understand that level of relentless negativity, the point behind it. If people want to pump that out into the ether, I don't have an issue with it. But I don't know about you, Jason. I've seen you engaged with people where I sense that you are being specifically, it's like relentless. Someone's almost like got a little nibble out of you, and then they're just relentlessly going at you. Like, what is it they're trying to achieve?
I don't know, Hannes. I mean, as you said, you and I have crossed swords on social media, but we've had really good conversations face to face. For me, I'm passionate about football. Football's been my life since I was 4, 5, 6 years old. And actually, one of your listeners will probably tell you how passionate I am about football, and he just happens to be Harrison Minton's dad. Yep. But yeah, I'm passionate about football, and I just feel that some people just, if you put a negative comment out, at the end of the day, it's an opinion. But when other people are then loading the fishing line and putting the bait out there for you, sometimes it does eat into you, and you get very defensive. Yeah. And I admit I do that, and maybe it's something I should just let go. But for me, it's I need to defend myself because no one else will.
Well, listen, Jason, I mentioned, I don't mind telling you, I'm not going to go into like massive detail, but I have things going on in my private life that unfortunately had some absolutely devastating news in the year 2000. And I have something that, as a consequence of that, myself and my family have to live with every day. And it is truly, truly sort of, the only way I can describe it is devastating. It's like everywhere I go, there's a bit of a, no matter how good my day is going to be, there's always going to be a bit of a black cloud following me around. So as a consequence of that, I've kind of trained myself to, rather than just be consumed by that, I've trained myself to kind of be kind of glass half full. Every day I kind of have to look for the silver linings, and that can't not overlap into the way that I follow my football club. You don't follow Swindon Town Football Club, let's be honest, to be going to Wembley every year, do you? Or to see us lifting pots every year. There is so much more to it than that. But where you can understand, and now people are going to say to me, and I made this point to somebody that's been started to get stuck into me yesterday. I made this point to them. It's like, well, you could probably argue that somebody in my position maybe is too vulnerable to be on social media. You could probably make that point. But my point is, particularly in this wonderful world of inclusivity, is why should I have to not be on social media for fear of people not just disagreeing with what I'm saying, but almost wanting to try, and you kind of get the sense at times, I feel people are trying to ruin me. You know, like people are just drilling into me to a point where they just want to cause me like humiliation, embarrassment, try and create, whether it's, I don't know, try to create something that isn't there. I don't understand the mindset of somebody that purports to support my football club that would do that to a fellow fan. I mean, have you encountered anything along those lines, Jason?
I have a couple of times, and again, for me, I've ended up blocking a couple of people just purely because I don't want to read what they're putting.
Yeah, but Jason, sorry to interrupt again. See, it's very, very difficult in my position and in Chris's and in Mike's position. We run the Sutton Broadbent Lounge, right? So we have to encourage debate. So I very, very rarely block people unless there is a bloody good reason for it. So, for example, I'm sorry, but Swindon Insider was blocked. I blocked Swindon Insider this week because there's a whole host of stuff that I just disagree with. In terms of that, there is an account that, based on just spurious rumour, is trying to destabilise the football club that I love. And you can't see any substance beyond what they're saying. And some of the stuff they're saying, just because of my dealings with the club recently, I know is complete rubbish. But it takes a lot for me to block. And Chris will tell you, the Sutton Broadbent Lounge does not like to block accounts. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. I made that very, very clear from the outset, didn't I? That we encourage debate, no matter how extreme it is. We don't, unless it's kind of utterly offensive, that might dictate to our entire team of like 18, 20 odd people that feed into our show. I don't ever want people blocking people. Fair comment?
That's a very, sorry, excuse me, a very fair comment. And you just got to suck it up when you want that and get the other viewpoint, which whether they're the same as us or against us, it's what's out there.
All right, listen, I want to try and bring Louis in at this stage, a Swindon boy. Louis, sorry, mate, you've been very, very patient and you've been holding on for so long. Louis, you very kindly sort of spoke to a few people that have been involved in producing my show about some of your own vulnerabilities and some of your own struggles. And you very eloquently painted a picture on socials this week that I thought was really poignant about Swindon Town to you and football to you. You can find yourself getting emotionally I think you used the word over-involved, but it can have a real impact on you and your mental health, can't it?
Yeah, it can. Especially during the season under Sheridan when we got relegated. That was really tough for me because, of course, we couldn't go to the ground. So every Saturday, and I think it was Tuesday, because part of it was in lockdown, I was just sat by the radio listening to it, and because we lost loads of our games, it just really got me down. So because I'm starting to get that feeling again now, because we're losing a couple of we've lost a few of our games now. So I'm quite glad I'm going on holiday, so I just to get escape from it for a couple of weeks, because to just give me that release, really. Yeah.
So I mean, have you been on the receiving end where you've kind of had to open up, Louis, about your own sort of struggles with how your mind operates in this world and the struggles that kind of gives you? Have you been in a position where you've had to kind of open up about that stuff to people, but almost still just had a continuation of a barrage of people giving you stick, because you're always quite a positive soul? That must be quite difficult in the current climate.
Yeah, I haven't received any stick or abuse from anyone. So, but the reason I decided to put it out was in case someone did, and then I reacted in quite a strange way. So I decided to put it out, so in case I did react, people would know.
Well, listen, it's really sad that in the current climate you've got somebody that's got something very kind of personal and medical, Louis, going on. I hope you don't mind me describing it like that. but you've almost taken a preemptive measure to put that out in the social space as a way of kind of protecting yourself against people kind of affecting your mental health and your mood and how you're then going to go and function during the day. I mean, Mike, I bring you in at this stage. I mean, that must sound really sad to you as somebody that's involved in obviously bringing smiles to people's faces, you know, in the Legends Lounge on a Saturday, to hear Louis kind of say that he's had to take preemptive measures in the current climate where it's got a bit snipey and snarky. That's really sad to hear, isn't it?
No, 100%. And to be honest, this is something that I've been wanting to sort of address for a little while. At the end of the day, I think we've all got to remember that there is one thing that unites us all. Even the people who, you know, as you said earlier, that they seem to constantly make sort of negative snipes or people who have disagreements online. But at the end of the day, we all support the town. We all want the best for Swindon Town FC. And Ash made a really, really good point earlier. I thought he made it really well as well about interpreting people's like words online when you know they're having like discussions. It's all about how you perceive the text. Do you know what I mean? Like someone could be intending to say something in a particular way, which you could get across easily in like a format like this, where you can hear someone's voice, you can hear like the intonation or like, you know, the way that they've said it. But you've got to interpret that when it's text. So it's really easy to sort of interpret that in like a negative way, especially when you're agreeing with someone. Disagreeing. Sorry. And yeah, at the end of the day, what I'd like is for us to have healthy debates like this. You know what I mean? Like I've got to say, I've got a big respect for Ash for coming on. He's sort of the first one who's sort of you know had some sort of like dissenting opinions compared to like someone like yourself, Hannes, who's obviously very positive. But no, I completely echo what you said earlier about having people who do have negative opinions. I want to hear them on the show in a genuine way. This isn't like an invitation to have like a scrap. I'm not out to fight anyone. I just want to hear your opinions, because at the end of the day, you know, as you rightly said, you know, these people purport to support the town, but they're so negative about it. I find it hard to understand.
Well, Mike, listen, I'm going to just put this out there, and Chris, you'll be able to back me up on this, I'm sure. The origins of the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge, you know, I won't bore everyone with the deep and meaningfuls in the story, but it truly is a really, really lovely story that kind of led to us kind of bringing this to the, you know, to the fore. But the one thing that really frustrated me, I said from the outset, I don't think, and the BBC won't thank me for saying this, but I don't think, as a long-standing Swindon fan, that, you know, the kind of call-in vibe, I don't think anyone's necessarily nailed it. I'll still listen to the call-in, to the phone-ins and all the rest of it, fine. But that, for me, was, you know, where I felt, you know, I really, really, to your point, Mike, I wanted people to come together and have these long-form discussions, get things out in the open, you know, talk about stuff, have a vent, have a rant. Interestingly enough, our Port Vale post the second leg show to date was our biggest show. We pushed nearly 10,000 people on that particular show, came in and listened to us. Couldn't believe the numbers. And the amount of feedback that I had from people talking about how good it was to be able to come in and just sort of like bury that Port Vale experience, get a few things off their chest, right? And all the rest of it. However, going right the way back to where this show was born from, right? It's always amazed me that I've given people an opportunity and a really, really easy format here to be able to come and air their views, whether that be positive, negative. And to your point, Mike, giving people an opportunity. If you are anti-Swindon Town or anti-Scott Lindsay or anti-Sandro Di Michele or anti-Rob Angus or anti-Clem Morfini or anti-Mark Hanrahan, right? Come on the show and just talk about the roots of that anger. Because I know I've worked with people long enough, and I'm long enough in the tooth to know, just by talking now, I am rubbing people up the wrong way, because people won't like the sound of my voice, or people hate the fact I talk too much. I get that. I get it. But you know what? I'm just a fan, just like everyone else. But I want to understand the root of that annoyance, the root of that frustration. So if at the moment you think our season is over after 135 minutes of football, come on and talk about it. You know, Ash hasn't quite said that, but Ash has come on and given a really, really eloquent explanation as to why he doesn't think Swindon Town class of 22-23 is going to deliver the goods for us this year. No issues with it. But what I take great exception to is when I get these anonymous accounts, and I know it's a bigger issue, and I'm not for 1 minute saying I've got to police the internet, but I get these anonymous accounts that will post something really quite disparaging about me personally, and then I see the likes just racking up. And some of the comments that have been made about, you know, whether it's my positivity, people find it ultimately irritating, this, that, and the other. I actually find that quite insulting. Now, listen, hey, I've got thick skin, so I take it on the chin. But what I want to understand is those kind of comments, fine, manage those. But what about some of this other stuff? It's if that comment is then followed up by another tweet next week by the same person, and then another tweet, and another tweet, and another tweet. I'm going to tell you a story about a lad that now helps me with the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge, that is a diehard Swindon Town fan that was pushed to the extremes of depression last season. Right now, this is a real case. This is a medical issue. This is confirmed. This is not romanticized. This is straight down the line. This guy was pushed to the point of serious medical illness by another Swindon Town fan who actually dropped me a message last night. And you could see that there was a pattern emerging in terms of the things he wanted to say to me. Right now, the person that was pushed to the point of that medical issue took issue with that other person and explained to them that at the time things were going on in their private life, life was very, very difficult for them. Look, he asked him to just cut him a bit of slack. He didn't mind a little bit of banter. That's absolutely fine. But, just go a little bit easier. The guy that was then putting the boot in then went and tweeted about the fact that that this guy had been pushed to the edge of medical depression, as though somehow that was a trophy that had been achieved. Now, that for me is truly, truly sickening. And I see that kind of stuff, in those patterns of behaviour. And those are things that I'm sorry, whether you fly the be kind flag or do whatever you need to do, that kind of stuff is despicable. And then when I see those people, repeating those patterns of behavior on other people over and over and over again. And then when I see people that I engage with on social media hitting the like button and supporting those people and empowering those people, no, I'm sorry, guys, something has got to change. That is not right. I think Mike made the point, we are all Swindon Town, right? First and foremost, we all literally are. Cut us open, we bleed red and white, yeah? I cannot believe that there would be people that would get some kind of twisted thrill out of just constantly ruining another Swindon Town fan. I cannot get my head around it. I mean, Chris, I'll bring you in at this stage because you've been around. You've been around the media space, both professionally and personally, and you and I are of similar age. The kind of chat that I'm talking about. Do you think there's ever going to be a solution for it? Do you think we are ever going to change, or do you think we just got to be a little bit better with our Swindon hats on at self-policing?
I more so from work wise, I don't think we're going to get the change there, because the amount of times we at work we get the theories where a player's done something bad in the game, he's missed a penalty, he's needing 10 to win off the last over, and he's just chipped it to mid-off and whatnot, and the abuse they get off everyone, hiding behind keyboards, it's just too much. You can't track them down. So from that side, I don't think that we're gonna get the an easing off of that. And it's just, I don't want to say that we're just going to have to accept it, but unfortunately, in terms of the whole thing about it, I think we have to.
All right. So here's another question for you, Mike. I'll put this to you. And Ash, I mean, if you're still, I'll take your point of view on this.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Do you think there is a blurring of the lines here? So the social media conversation, the kind of whether you call it trolling or whatever you would call what it is I've just described, I don't know what you call it. But Sol Bryn on Saturday, I just want to talk about what happened a little bit there before the Salford game. I was broadcasting from the Legends Lounge, so I missed it, but I'm reliably informed. He's warming up in front of the town end. He collects a cross, and a relatively large group of individuals all kind of sarcastically applauded the fact that he had collected this cross. Then I understand that Steve Mildenhall felt that a line had been crossed and that words were had. Now, I don't know whether what happened next was then linked to what happened then, but we've all seen Steve's tweet that he's come out into the car park after the game and found that his car's been vandalised. Now, it's maybe me putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5, but there is certainly something that is seriously, seriously wrong in the culture of our football club when a young goalkeeper is hugely rated at Middlesbrough and actually had a pretty bloody impressive pre-season, bar relatively shaky performance against Cardiff. He's getting booed in his warm-up or sarcastically applauded. That a club legend in Steve Mildenhall, who's literally put his balls on the line for the club, has had to go and have words with people. And then he comes out into a car park and finds that his car's been vandalised. Now, whether that's been done by a Swindon fan or whether that's been done by an opposition fan or whether that's just been done by some moron in the car park, we don't know. But if you get my point, Ash, I guess I'll put that to you, really. There's something seriously wrong when
that's just stupid behaviour. That's just idiotic individuals, really, or a group of individuals that have looked to cause offence, misery, stupidity. It's disappointing that obviously they find themselves into the ground. When you think, you go back to social media, unfortunately, like where the line gets crossed on social media is sometimes like passions run high, so people can be excused, not excused for being abusive towards another person, but their comments in the heat of the moment can be, they should be possibly taken with a pinch of salt. When I message something at like 4:20 on a Saturday afternoon when it's not working out and you are literally fucking fuming and you're in the ground. But then you'd still get stick when you get home and be told that you're, what word do they use for us? Having a meltdown. You're in the meltdown, gang.
Oh, you're in the meltdown.
Do you know what I mean? You just find yourself in that void of meltdown. But what goes on in the ground and the way that all went about, to be honest, I got to be honest with you, we didn't get in there until 2:45 on Saturday, so I didn't see any of it. But you're quite right to probably put 2 and 2 together. Realistically, I can't see a Salford escort bopping through cars looking for Steve Mildenhall's car and doing something like that to it. So unfortunately, it does lead yourself to that. In absolutely no way, shape or form should something like that be happening in amongst your own fan base within the ground. Like, if people have got a problem with something, they can openly talk about it or display it. Unfortunately, they have got the opportunity to display it when they're in the ground. If they want to boo the goalkeeper relentlessly for 90 minutes, the likelihood is, and I was in the town end, that didn't happen. It didn't happen during the game, is what I mean. I'm not saying it didn't happen before, because obviously it definitely did. But it didn't happen during the game, so they've not chose to carry on with their abuse. Should we call it abuse? Because it probably is abuse. They've not chosen to do that out loud in amongst a fan base. They've just taken the opportunity to do it before the game, and they might have been opportunist and taken a little bit of retribution outside in the car park, which is totally bang out of order. Now,
So, Ash,
the football club.
Do you think then, Ash, it's a societal problem that someone, in the same way that they feel online with social media, they can lash out? Do you feel that they still feel that they're empowered enough that, hang on a minute, that bloke who's in that position of authority on that pitch has just come over and given me a ticking off? Who the hell does he think he is? I know which one's his car. I'll show it. So do you see the link I'm trying to build here? Or do you think
exactly what it is? It's exactly what it is. There's a breakdown in generations, unfortunately, and it does come down to ultimately what your upbringing was like. Probably on paper, we all try to do the best by our kids or whatever, and I brought my kid up to stand in the town end. Now, that would possibly be frowned upon by certain people because obviously it's not the most eloquent of places to watch football, but it's where I've always watched football and where I grew up watching football. So I'm a vocal supporter when I'm in the ground, and my son leads by that. But I would, by that extent, he's not allowed to swear in our house. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But unfortunately, there is a bit of a missed generation. I do think that, and you can see gaps in supporters' age groups when you walk around the county ground. There are voids where there are missing generations of people, And then there are other generations that come in, and whether they're younger, older, too old to be bothered anymore or whatever. But yeah, there's like a society problem. My wife works in that area of stuff, let's say, and
Yep.
there are massive issues with that going forward, but hopefully it all gets sorted out, and Mills don't deserve what's happened to him, and it is
No.
wrong,
Well, look,
and
Ash, I'm just going to put this out there again. We are what? We're 2 hours and 10 minutes into the show now, and despite me putting it out there multiple occasions, tweeting that this is going to be a key part of the show, not a single one of those people, and we all know who they are, but not a single one of those people has either plucked up the courage or showed the wherewithal to hit the speaker request and come on the show and sort of state their case. Now, I don't like to use the word coward, but it's kind of like appropriate in this instance, isn't it? In that we're talking about
it's exactly what it is. Like at the weekend, I was like, I need to get some of these points across. Like, am I going mad? Am I the only one that's not? And I wasn't the only one that wasn't happy with certain things that's gone on through the summer, especially evolving around recruitment, And I was just like, am I going mental? And I was in the ground on Saturday, and I was getting towards half time, and I was just like, do you know what? Like, this is, and it was like boiling me up inside, and even at my age, you'd think that I could just not tweet or just sit back and just let it all go or deal with it. But unfortunately, like Sunday comes along, and I'm a miserable git on a Sunday if Swindon lose. Like, everyone in my household knows, stay away. Or if I bowl through the door and me and Ronnie come home and we're like looking at each other, and the owner will go, "Did they lose?" And I'll go, "Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. Who's playing at 5:30?" And we just stand and stare at the TV. Don't want to watch Quest. Don't want to watch none of that crap. Like, get through to work on Monday and try not to buy a newspaper because I don't want to look at anything. Do you know what I mean? So it affects me like that. So when I get like annoyed and I'm in the ground and I'm watching something, and I was desperate for him to play 4 at the back, and unfortunately sometimes you can't help it. And football, unfortunately, it's not unfortunate. It's so emotional for so many people because it affects people's mental health. It affects how they actually feel permanently within themselves. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you will flourish if your team win. Do you know what I mean? I can come back on a Saturday night, and if Swindon have won, I'll feel different, even in my own home, than what I will do if we've lost.
Yeah.
So that's how binding being a football fan is, and that's what it sort of defines you as a person, and it has such a massive effect on you. I'm not defending what people write on social media when they're outright just eating people up inside and just going for the throat of people. You know what you've experienced and what other people have experienced. That's totally unnecessary. But
but Ash, here's another thing, right? So it's not just necessarily the people that put sort of, nasty kind of personal remarks out there. I mentioned that, and the fact that I'm thinking this, I'll tell you what I'm thinking as I'm about to say this. There have been people this week that have been putting comments out there about the owner and the nature of the owner's involvement in the club. And there have also been people that have been asking questions about the involvement of certain people behind the scenes at the club that the owner's actually already come out and spoken about. But these are topics that they keep on being. So first of all, let's take the owner thing. Like, I'm not betraying any kind of confidences when, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but in the preparation for Clem Morfuni coming on our show last week or week before last, I think it was, Clem, by his own admission, is not a highly trained, highly polished media beast. So at times he comes across, by his own admission, he's not very comfortable in front of the camera or, comfortable on the mic. Very, very different when he's not on media duties. Like, as I'm sure you've found, Ash, if you've met with Clem.
Yeah, I've met him. Yeah.
So
I
I
got like
have.
I put questions to the trust like about 6 weeks ago, maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Just because everything was just circling, and it was doing my head in. I
yeah,
just like kept reading it, and it was like, look, let's just get clarity on it, and then once we've got clarity on it, we can move on. Until
yeah,
we've got clarity and we've got answers from people that will say that Michael Standing's not doing anything at the football club. This
yeah,
isn't happening. That isn't happening.
yeah,
This is the case. Then you have to take something as gospel.
yeah,
Now, if something in the future rears its head again, then the questions need to be asked at the advisory board level. That's the whole point of the advisory board. That's
yeah,
the point in being able to engage with the trust to get your questions across. If the questions hadn't been asked, then you would then start that creates a vortex where people are like, well, I've asked this question 5 times and they're not answering it. So now you start to smell a rat. Do you know what I mean? When something gets answered and they answer it, if it gets proven incorrect in like 6, 8, 10, 12, 2 years time, then you will be like, well, we got lied to.
yeah. Oh,
When you feel like, if you feel like you're being kept in the dark with something and the question doesn't get asked, that's what eats you up inside. So
yeah,
being able to ask those questions and get honest answers, or you have to take something as honestly, don't you? At some point, otherwise, you're just living in a parallel. You're living in your own mind then, basically, because
yeah,
you're not prepared to read anything as honest. So at that point, it's not even worth asking the question. But I asked questions and they got answered. I'm
yeah.
sure other people have possibly asked questions that haven't been answered yet, and hopefully they do get answered in
Well,
time.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Ash. Like Clem came on the show with Rob, and purely asked Rob to come onto the show to just assist to ensure that anything that he couldn't actually answer there and then about anything operationally got answered. And he very much engaged with me on the spirit of, listen, there's nothing, off the table here. You can ask me whatever you like, mate. I don't have any issues. And the funny thing is, I'm saying this now, and I know that I'm going to wake up to a bunch of tweets in the morning saying you only said that because somehow he's got you in the back pocket, which could not be further from the truth. I'm just telling you, like, here is a guy that owns our football club that lives in Australia. There are certain practicalities, as we've noticed from Charlie Austin coming on my show tonight. Like, brilliantly, it works for Charlie that he can come on my show on a Wednesday night because it means he's just got out of bed and he's having his cup of coffee and his cornflakes, and it's a nice way for him to start his day. For Clem, he is running a multi-million-pound business, of which Swindon Town is only really a small part of what he's doing. But nonetheless, it's part of his blend. Now, I think the thing is, he's not. So I do get your point, Ash. There's times where he's not necessarily going to be able to answer all the questions himself. I think the other thing we've got to be a bit realistic about is that I think maybe people have forgotten the extent of the damage that was caused behind the scenes at Swindon Town as part of the takeover of the club, where the clubs had to kind of rebuild and start again.
It's not only that; it's the pain that it's the perpetual cycle that Swindon fans have been on for so long.
Yeah, for sure. Worst, and this is do you know what, Ash? That's the other thing. I think
the crash and burn. We don't trust anyone. Let's be honest.
So
it's very difficult, isn't it?
You're so right. So look, Ash, to your point, right? Like I said, everybody, we all have our own individual stories, right? You and I have been on almost an identical football journey. I've got the same scars. We've breathed the same air. We've seen the same highs, the same lows. I'm sure we're probably on opposite divides when the McMahon era went horribly wrong, and that split the club right down the middle. But the facts are that, there are reasons for me, because of things happening away from the football club, that affect the way that, I think, and affect the way that I talk about my club, and affect the way I live my life, and affect the way that I put things out there, right? What I find, very, very difficult is that there is this, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's almost like there feels like with some people, they don't necessarily have the ability to put the brakes on and think about stuff before they start going and causing such discord. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably put myself out there on I'm only on Twitter, to be honest. I don't bother with Facebook or anything like that. But when I post something on there, I never delete it. It just stays. Even if I wake up the next day and I think, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm getting some grief for that or whatever, I just leave it. Because I just think, to me, I can just take or leave the comment of someone that I've never, ever met before, or I couldn't give two shits about. Do you know what I mean? In the nicest way. It's just like, I think there is like a level of thick skin when it comes to Twitter, but the individual abuse that comes, that probably you will find yourself a target for, is because you've put yourself out there to a totally different level to me putting myself out there. Do you know what I mean? So I'll post videos of me doing stupid stuff or anything really, or moaning about a football game or whatever it is. And then I might come in for criticism, or someone will want to have an argument with me. And I think sometimes I'll go and I'll end up engaging in that argument because I'm still at a heightened level of passion towards what I've said. The next day, I'll just be like, I don't even know who that is. I can't even bother to respond to him. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, but see, and for us, therein lies the challenge. So I had a very, very close friend of mine who helps out with the Tom Broadbent Lounge say to me, "Listen, Hannahs, I don't think it's healthy for you to engage as much as you do with some of these people on social media, because it can't be healthy. And I'm sure he won't mind me name checking him. You know, Andrew Hawes has said to me in the last 24 hours, listen, Hannahs, you're never going to police the internet. Now, that's not what I'm trying to achieve, but I understand those guys checking in and looking out for my welfare. The issue is, however, because we've created something, to your point, Ash, that reaches an awful lot of people. I mean, as I said, we were flabbergasted after Port, about 10,000 people listening. Now, that's mega. Now, because we've got that level of presence, I kind of feel a duty to respond to things. And I kind of feel that sometimes it's put out there that, hang on a minute, if you don't, it's almost implied, if you don't respond to this, that is just an absolute indication that you are either in Clem's pocket, or you are something to do with Lee Power, or you're not really a supporter of Swindon Town. Funny enough, I had this when I was involved in 442. When we started sponsoring the football club, I used to get the odd snarky comment up in the sponsors lounge about the fact that, oh, look, there's another one of those, like, he's got nothing to do with the club. You know, he's you can hear in his accent, he's not local. And I used to love having those conversations with people about, I've literally been following the club since the Macari era.
You're in the line now, though, where your outreach is so big that the club are interested in your outreach, because you're hitting numbers of like 10,000 people, like you said, for Port Vale. So when you're hitting 10,000 people, the club are interested in you and what you've created, because being able to engage with 10,000 people is no mean feat. It's no mean feat for the football club to be able to engage with 10,000 people that don't always go to the game, that would casually listen to something like this. So because of the engagement with the club, and the club looking to engage with you as an entity, if you like, as the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge, because that has become, it's actually valuable to the club if you think about it, because that is, you are putting a message across. You don't have to put across a football club message, but then other people think, oh, well, he's putting across a football club message now because the club are now giving you players to speak to, and then they're so they don't get me wrong, the football club definitely want to be a part of this because the outreach is good.
Right, so I'll tell you what, I'm just going to state this for the record, because there was an allegation made against me last week that a reason why I am positive is I have to be positive because of the access that the club are giving me. I believe I'm quoting that verbatim.
I don't think you've ever changed, to be honest, on that front. You've always been positive, and I am generally positive. I've got to the point where I'm concerned.
Right, well, listen, to your point, just to clear this up for the sake of anyone that might have questions about our integrity, one of the reasons, you nailed it, Ash, one of the reasons why the football club have opened their arms to us, we have worked. My response to that tweet last week, it was really trying if you imagine myself, Chris, Mike, and there's another, like I said, best part of 20 people behind what we do on this show that all feed in ideas, suggestions, help plan the show, help promote the show. We work very, very, very hard to, you know, whilst we're a bit rough around the edges, give you guys an authentic product, right? And I think that's one of the things that the club appreciate. It's authentic. Now, one of the reasons why the players like talking to us, our journey started by talking to legends of the club and building a rapport with these people. And not a single person that's come on this show has come back to me and said, you know what, that was difficult, or I didn't enjoy that, or, you know, things aren't quite the way they are. It's all very discussional and always very positive. Now, the club have clearly listened to that, responded. We've built up trust. We have been slowly introduced to behind the scenes where we've been able to go in and sit with people. At no point have we had to send people questions and get them pre-approved, which, you know, is commonplace elsewhere in media. We haven't had to do any of that. But we've conducted ourselves in such a way that we've built trust with people, and that's given the club the faith in us to be able to talk to the first team and know that we're not going to end up throwing people under a bus. You'll know that there are members of the first team that are quite tricky. You know the names that immediately will spring to mind where it could be with them. But I just want to make it absolutely clear: we don't get that access, and I don't have a positive demeanour for any other reason. And it's nice being able to have this opportunity whilst we're sort of exploring this whole kind of like trolling and people drawing conclusions. Because one of the things that the reason I've brought this up and been so long into it, Ash, is that people do tend to sort of, they will paint their opinion or put their conclusions out there and then will rigidly stick to them. As in, that's what I think. You're not going to change my mind. And to quote a good mate of mine, Nathan, who will be listening in at the moment, you're never going to change someone's mind on Twitter, are you? So
no. You could argue and argue and argue, but like, unfortunately, like, it is a platform where people share their opinions, and as soon as they use the word opinion, then that's it. It's because they just go, well, I'm entitled to my opinion, and they are entitled to their opinion. If you think it's wrong, you can engage in an argument that could last for like 3 days, arguing with someone over an opinion that they've got because you don't agree with their opinion. Now, we are all entitled to them. Yeah, we are. When some of the opinions are totally wrong, then unfortunately those people, somehow you've just got to walk away from it. You just got to ignore them, because otherwise you're just going to go on and on and on. I come on here to, like, ultimately I share pictures of my kids. I'll be drinking a beer. I'll send some pictures of mates in a pub, and I come on here to talk about football. If it wasn't for football, I probably wouldn't have Twitter, really. The other stuff, like, goes through the side, because everything that I come on Twitter for is for team news, looking out who's Swindon are going to sign, seeing what people are saying, trying to find someone with a similar opinion. And I personally, to me, I will then navigate myself and then go and have a chat with that person and say, yeah, I thought that, or I'll like what they said, and then I'll say, yeah, spot on. That's how I saw it. And then you'll engage with someone like that. But then on another occasion, there might be some opinion that's so wayward that sometimes you just can't quite hold back that, like, how the hell are you finding that? And even at 39, like, I'm still getting caught by that trap.
Well, it's unfortunately, it's a blessing and a curse for us as a show. And what we do, I kind of do feel obliged to engage with opinion, you know, as and when. And I think that the scale, like I said, the size of what we're doing now, the kind of the amount of people that we're engaging with, is making that an incredibly difficult task. Because I do spend probably more of my week coming back to people and either thanking them for their lovely feedback, which I'm pleased to say is the majority of what I end up doing. But the amount of people, as we have got to the sort of the number of people that are going down a slightly different route is also increasing. And they're the ones that it's good learning, but I also feel that, it's, some of the more kind of like random, dogged, like, okay, I will answer someone's allegation or aspersion, and they just won't let go. They're like a dog with a bone. So
I don't think you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's just it's people are not going to like what you do. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm a
But still, then Ash, that people should just make better use of the block or the mute
yeah.
Twitter rather than, because I said this to one of these guys that's caused me umbrage this week. I said just that to him. I was like, if I'm irritating you that much,
Just mute me, block
my
me.
getting up your nose, why don't you just do us all a favour and just mute me rather than try and embarrass me and then continually try and publicly shame me moving forward, like somehow I'm something for you to kind of hold up to ridicule for your own sort of sport. It's an interesting point of view, like, because Twitter, like a lot of the social media platforms, Ash, are criticised because they're not seen to be doing enough. But actually, Twitter gives you a lot of the tools you need, right? Just hit mute or block. But again,
I don't mind reading someone else's opinion if I think it's structured right.
Yeah, but
do you know what I mean? Like, if I just read something where it's just bang, have this, and it's all a load of garbage, then I'm just like, well, I'm not interested. If someone like structures something and writes something where their opinion's different to mine, but they might sell me a different way of looking at something, then I want to engage with that person because I want to get into their head and know what they're talking about or know what they've seen. That means something to me. It doesn't mean anything to me if they just blurt something out and it's totally outrageous or so stupid that I just don't know how they could ever come to that because it's just words on a screen. Do you know what I mean?
It's a sort of blessing and the curse for our show because for me it's a credibility play. You know, if people want to challenge my integrity or the show's integrity and our role in terms of, you know, it's sort of essentially trying to help give access to bring a bigger kind of coverage of the football club to you, people want to question the integrity.
Well, it is
part
raging.
of
it is an engaging platform. Like I said, like the club are ultimately engaged with it.
But you know what, Ash? Part of the challenge, therefore, and part of the obligation for me moving forward is that we will continue to, push back against these comments. But I guess, like I said, I'm going to ask for all the listeners' patience here because inevitably, what you're going to see moving forward, because I've only got so many hours in the day, is if I don't respond to things and you see people continuing to cast aspersions. Hopefully we've kind of shone a bit of a light on some of this activity tonight. I would hope that people would maybe start thinking before they hit the like button and giving people the encouragement that they need to just continue doing what they're doing. And like I said, if you feel that you want to hit the like button, let's take, for example, you don't like what I do and you agree with that person's opinion, why don't you just do us all a favour then and, just mute me or drop me
come and talk.
drop me a DM or come and see me in the Legends Lounge on the Saturday because we're always up for constructive criticism. Jason, bless him, is one of the first people to do that with me in person at the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge barbecue. Jason walked over to me, gave me some really interesting tips on how he thought presenting could be better, how other people could be brought into the show, ideas for segments, things. I'm all up for that. Keep it constructive, though, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think, like, the idea of it ultimately is that people should be able, and the ones that want to hide are going to hide. But there's plenty of opportunity to come on here and have a chat and say what you want to say because in amongst the 40, 50 people or however many are listening now, someone might go, oh, bloody hell, yeah, I agree with him. Thank God someone else is saying it. And then someone else will go, oh, yeah, I liked what he said, or I liked what he said, or I didn't like what he said, or whatever. But then at least you get it. Like for me, I've sort of got it off my chest. I've said where I find it. I've got my reservations about certain things. And I've still got the hope. I'm not dead in the water. Do you know what I mean?
Well, look, Ash, there are two things I'm going to say before I wrap us up for the night, right? The first one is I'm just going to remind everybody that's listening here tonight a little bit of faith in humanity. I've lost count the number of times that I have this week called people out to come on this show that have had hugely negative views about our football club, or negative views about me, or negative views about other people in the Twitter space, and they've been putting them out there, or ongoing sort of feuds that are going on between Swindon fans in the. I've asked people to come on and just explore the root of this stuff, and you know what? Not one person from that group of individuals has sent a speaker request and been brave enough to come on and do it. That, for me, speaks volumes. That's the first thing. Second thing is, unfortunately, going back to the Walsall game last night, I'm sure you've all seen that Walsall have been drawn at home to Charlton Athletic in the second round of the League Cup, which we would all have dearly loved to have experienced at the county ground. But hey, yeah, there's another little twist in the tale. Well, listen, we're Ash, I've been absolutely bowled over. I just want to reiterate to everyone that's been listening in tonight, or maybe those that have joined a little bit later. Ash, you certainly don't fit the troll box, but you've been very, very vocal in yet kind of, sort of negative Swindon Town sentiment over the last couple of weeks. And you've just given everyone a shining example of how to sort of articulate it. And you've been brilliant in helping us explain why maybe it doesn't quite the way that we would like, and maybe helping us to establish a few tools and suggestions.
Yeah, mate. Like I said, I'm not dead in the water. I think this side have got a little bit more. I think the management need to do something. And yeah, I'm not deep on the recruitment process of this summer. I just feel like after last season, I'm not sure the squad's stronger. I think he needs an injection of bodies with a little bit more quality than what they've signed. But it's not, we're 3 games in. So days. It still is early days.
To quote Seaside Reds, mate, and we're gonna close with this. To quote Seaside Reds, we're gonna win 4-0 on Saturday.
Yeah.
All
a little red flag.
Right, well, listen, it's been an absolutely tremendous show. Well over 2.5 hours of really, really interesting content. Everything from Charlie right at the start of the show to talking about Walsall, a little touch of Salford, and getting into a very deep and meaningful debate about positivity and negativity in the hashtag STFC world. I've had some brilliant feedback that has been popping into my DMs. H the Duck, thank you ever so much for that brilliant message, who told us, says to me that the last 15-20 minutes just prior to him ducking off was absolutely top broadcasting, that he's really appreciated it. So to Ash's point, we hope that somebody's getting something out of tonight. H is not the only one that is making that point to me. So the Charlie Austin print has been won by somebody. We will make the announcement on Twitter tomorrow, and I thank everyone for their contributions tonight. I thank Jason for being so eloquent, Ash for giving up such a huge amount of his time. We're really, really grateful. Louis, the Swindon boy with the wonderful red glasses, for coming on and speaking so eloquently and openly about some of the struggles that are, maybe a little bit more unique to him versus some of the other contributors tonight. My huge thanks to co-hosts Mike and Chris for coming on and being my foil tonight, and for their help in assistance with planning what has been another Swindon Town fan podcast that is the Sir Tom Broadbent Lounge, an independent Swindon Town fan podcast that doesn't reflect the views of Swindon Town Football Club or Sir Tom Broadbent himself. It has been our absolute treat, guys. Thanks for hanging around for so long. If you've joined late, please make sure you keep an eye on Twitter. The link will be going up soon for the re-recording. But yeah, other than that, I look forward to catching up with you next week when our special guest in the lounge is none other than Swindon Town post-war goal-scoring record holder Simon Cox, who will be joining us. I'm thrilled to confirm he's going to be joining us next Wednesday, when we're going to be talking about Simon's best of everything. And on top of that, we will obviously have a review of whatever goes down in Cumbria on Saturday. So look forward to catching up with you guys on Wednesday. Take good care.